Live La Vida Loca with the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Break out the boombox and hit rewind. We're feeling fresh for day one of the Fixed Ops Roundtable 90's Rewind event. And here to press play on our fabulous 4-day event is our host, Katrina Ness.
Good morning, I'm Katrina Ness from Northwood University. The Fixed Ops Roundtable is feeling fly for day one of our 4-day event. Let's go with the flow as we kick it old school. So sit back, chillax, and welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable's 90's Rewind event. Get the 411 by using the chat feature on the right side of your screen. Just be sure to select everyone and not just hosts and panelists. Here to kick off our day are two of the freshest folks in Fixed Ops. Please welcome Tully Williams and Sarah Vantine.
Welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable 90's Rewind event. Tully Williams, we are so excited to have you kicking off the show today.
Wow, what an excitement. 5 years, Ted has brought this great organization together. And what has he done? Shine the light on Fixed Ops. We're out of the closet. We're making an impact. This roundtable has done so much for the industry, bringing people out. This is how we met, right, Sarah? Bringing people out, showing all the great success of these great people and the men and women in the Fixed Ops department around this great United States. This is the best show ever. And wow, 4 days. Can you believe it?
It's insane to me just to think about, and you just brought up reminiscing about the early Fixed Ops roundtables. But my gosh, you remember they used to be numbered. It was number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 was the one I met you at, or we had met previously, but that was our first official one together.
Yep.
And then here we are now, 4 years past that point at the Fixed Ops Roundtable, now 90's Rewind event with the themes.
It is so exciting. I mean, I remember back when we met in Florida with Ed, our good friend Ed. All three of us met there in Florida, and that's how I feel our career started. With all of us together talking about Fixed Ops and just trying to make people happy. And now look at you, Sarah, big, huge advancement, vice president, with at the Fixed Ops Roundtable, leading the certification too. I think that, to me, that's important, right? I mean, talking about making sure we have certain stores and certain, that are meeting the standards that we all believe in. I think those are big deals, aren't they?
This is so exciting, Tully. I'm glad you said that, because this has been so exciting for me to now be officially with the Fixed Ops Roundtable instead of just a participant in the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Now I'm officially on board as the vice president of the Fixed Ops Roundtable. But you pointed out the certified dealer award and the certified partner program. And those pieces, it's so important to the industry. And you and I both know this firsthand. But there's a lot of companies out there that dealers can see. And there's also a lot of dealerships that want to have a voice in the industry. But not all voices are necessarily a positive influence for the industry. Not all companies are the right fit for people in the industry. So the certified program has been so exciting to get to continue to develop, because your input, individuals like Tully, who's one of our board members, but we have some incredible people that are part of our certified board that get to weigh in on, is this the right technology for dealerships? Is this the right dealer group that's doing the right things by people, and how they continue to develop that. So Tully, it's been so exciting to have you as part of it.
You're so spot on that. When you look at these great organizations across the United States, and what's nice about the Fixed Ops table is I believe in, as managers like myself, Ed and Shawn, and we had, Scott and Thomas on there. Those are the people that, are doing it not for themselves, but to help the industry. And that's what Ted has built up. And that's what you're taking on, is how do we help stores? It just one little nugget can make a huge difference to a store. I get nuggets every time we have a Fixed Ops Roundtable. There's, oh, wow, that was a great idea, right? And then I get mad at my service managers for not watching the whole thing, right? So I mean, how do we get everybody excited about Fixed Ops, right? And that's what this is all about.
Well, and the cool thing, Tully, you and I experienced this firsthand, but I remember when we were in Las Vegas in 2020, it was an in-person event. And so the Fixed Ops Roundtable used to be an in-person event, and you were one of the first at the Fixed Ops Roundtable, the first Best Practice Award winner. So that itself, tell us a little bit more about that first time. What was your topic when you were at the roundtable?
Well, that was in Beverly Hills, and and I was so honored to be invited to speak there. And of course, my big topic was, it's all about the hours. And and it's so funny, is I actually look at that when I talk about the hours. I still have that presentation I talk about, and nothing has really changed, right? And bringing people back to understand that we do sell the hour, which sells the part, and which makes people happy and come back. It's still relevant today as it was 5 years ago when I was invited to that great event, and the number 2 one in first on the West Coast is coming back. I think was really a great honor. And I think the relevancy of Fixed Ops today, when you look back in 5 years, a lot of things are still there. When we were in Vegas, a lot of huge speakers, right? A lot of big panels we had on there. And we talked about these great things that are still relevant today. Yes, some technology's gotten better, right? I'm a big video guy now. Video's gotten a lot better and a lot easier to use, but overall, the fundamentals of Fixed Ops is the same. And we talk about those over and over again. And that people sometimes need to hear it once or twice and say, yeah, it's a great idea. I'll try that.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned video, Tully, because that's actually one of the big parts about the Fixed Ops Roundtable and how it's evolved in the last 4 years, now celebrating the 5-year anniversary. But that, it didn't used to be video based. It used to be very much an in-person event. And you and I know from our retail time, sometimes it's really challenging to get to all of these conferences or get out of your dealership and go attend a session where you can get some education or learn or network with some of the best minds in the industry. And so today, the roundtable, here it is, virtual. We all get to plug in and listen like we are today. And there's people tuning in right now from all across the country and all across dealerships in North America. And here they are at maybe their workstation, maybe they're on vacation, but the video is coming to them and they can access it right there on their phone. I know you're doing some really exciting things around video too. And so I want to pivot for a second and just ask that question. One of the things that you were talking about with us, with Ed and Shawn and everybody, we were talking a little bit more about videos and technicians. So what's going on at the Niello company? What are y'all using video with your techs today?
Well, I think that it was all about getting technology to work right. And I honestly think the video piece is really, it's their cell phone. That's what they're using. But I think that, it starts with, do you realize that a technician video can help you sell things that we would recommend our family members? As I say, we're selling recommendations we'd sell our family members. And when a technician says it, that you need this, is so much more impactful, right? It takes the doubt out. I think next thing you know is that when we first started videos, we had some videos that were 2 minutes long. Okay, a minute and a half too long, right? And then as we've learned over this past 4 to 5 years, as we focus now on it's a meet and greet, a thank you, and talk about things that need immediate attention and how great your car is. That's what we focus down to. And now we work on the quality of the video about how do we make the technician's face show up? Before you're pointing to the card, how do we turn the phone around and say, hey, I'm Tully Williams. I'm the technician working on your car today. Thank you for bringing it in. I noticed doing our visual inspection, we noticed your brakes are at 8:30 seconds. Your tires are at 4:30 seconds. You know what? There's a couple things that need some immediate attention. I made sure I took some of those pictures for you. It'll be included in that estimate. Thank you so much for bringing it into the Niello company today. Those are the things that we're trying to work on. And technicians, are hard to change. But now when they see the result, and what we measure here at the Niello company is the hours from recommendations we'd sell our family members, and now they see the result. So showing the technician to me is a big push for us for this year, is getting the quality better. I think we do a pretty good job now, but now showing the technician. Some of them are scared to death, and some of them are okay with it. So we're going to let it smooth in. But here's the best thing. I pay a half an hour for a video and a quality inspection. And Tully said, people say, Tully, why do you pay? And the reason I say is, one is that I value our technicians. And if I pay them, I can demand excellence. If you don't pay them, it's hard to say, hey, you didn't do a very good job. Well, you didn't pay me. Why should I do it? And I take that completely out of the equation. Does it cost a lot of money? Yes. But here we go. We sell 40 to 50% of the recommendations, or their hours are from recommendations. We sell about 50 to 60% of everything we ask for. I think these are great numbers. So God bless America.
Well, that is amazing, Tully. And you just touched on a couple of important components that I just want to draw extra attention to. So the first thing you said was you have the video on the technician. The technician is actually revealing who they are. They're no longer the man or woman behind the curtain.
Correct.
And that is such an important component that we're seeing in our industry right now. There's a lot of buzzwords, there's a lot of topics, but video is really becoming that important connection piece between not only ourselves professionally, but then our customers. Yes. And so I love that you touched on that element of bringing the awareness of who the technician is, who the individual is. And let me just ask, do you see in this development that you had at the Niello company, are customers asking for the technician now, not just the advisor?
Well, I think when we start turning the face around, and then they know, they kind of know the face, and you're looking at their phone. But now, if we do more about presenting the technician in a light where they can see them, recommendations for technicians should grow. Do we have some people ask for it? Absolutely, we do, right? But I think that now when we start promoting our technicians and they see their faces, a lot of our stores have this big window that looks out in the shop and they can see their technician working on their car. I think these are all massive wins.
Oh, that's so amazing, Tully. And the other part that I really love that you touched on is paying the technician for this work. This is work. This is something that you have standards and expectations to execute. Yep. So, with that pay component, how are you seeing technicians embrace it?
100%. Because here's the deal. The funny thing was, when I first started this 4 or 5 years ago, I said, if the shop is at 90% video, I'll pay you for the video. Okay, I didn't even need to say that, because the first time they realized that we're going to go from 2/10 to 5/10, I want a quality inspection and a quality video done, I was bought in. No one challenged the 90%. So our video rate is 99 to 100% of every inspection has a video. And if it's usually 99, it just didn't work, because we all understand the importance. And that's a video of a car that came in that has 2 miles on, right? It's going to be a very simple video. It might be only 15 seconds. But the goal is they see the result. And here's why they see the result. The TV's in the back behind me. I have it all of our stores, and I'm showing the success of the video. I show videos of some of our great technicians that we have examples for, so they can see them. I show that they can get 20, 30, 40, 50% of their focused hours because of a video that helps sold all these great recommendations we sell our family members. Show what it does for them. right? We always talk about net profit, blah, 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 blah. I talk about what can I do to help you and your family. That's what it's all about.
That's huge, Tully. And the other part that's been really exciting and learning more about all the recent events at the Niello company. So you've also, in addition to developing this technician video process and captivating your customers with having those compelling videos, you've also elevated the customer experience before they ever come into the dealership.
Yes, we do. And thank you for bringing that up. As you know, the best is that we've launched our BDC this year, and man, wow, what a monster success. I kind of thought we'd start slow and we kind of work into it, and maybe by the end of the year, we'll have a great success. And holy mackerel, was I wrong. By month 1, we ironed out a couple things. Month 2, we had an answer rate of 40%. We're making appointments. We're making return calls. We're checking all the appointments. We're calling all of our red and yellow recommendations. It was a monstrous success. And I want to say you inspired me to make it happen.
Well, Tully, I'm so excited to hear about your new BDC team with the Niello company. And I'm excited to continue to see its success and where you take it next and what additional elements that you add to it. And I know we're going to have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, you think about the BDC, what it can do for you. First is that, I learned it because of you, right? That's how we first met, when you were talking about the BDC. Then, of course, you've had some, great sessions on TechVengers. Right? The next thing is that I needed a great software. TechVengers showed me a great company, Volley, to make sure it happens, right? And now I'm begging Sarah to come out and visit us next year, right? This year, so we want it. We want it all, right? To make it super success. To do what? To sell more hours.
All these components are so important, Tully, and like we've all said before, you're one of the innovators in our industry, coming into the industry with all the experience that you have, but then continuing to elevate the customer experience, the employee experience, and bring us these amazing insights that you get to share with the entire Fixed Ops Roundtable community.
Well, thank you, so kind. And same with you. I want to say thank you, Sarah, for all you do for us. And I'm super excited for your next adventure with Ted and the Fixed Ops Roundtable and the certification. It's going to be super excited. And here you are hosting to get this party started for the next 4 days. I can't wait. I'm so excited about getting some new nuggets this session, find out what's happening out there with some great people.
Well, Tully, we've got a jam-packed 4 days, and you are on many of the segments coming up on the Fixed Ops Roundtable today and tomorrow and the following day. There's going to be no shortage of Tully Williams on the roundtable. But what are the things that you think dealers have got to be paying attention to? What are the things in this back half of the year that we've got to be focusing on?
I think that, I think the focus is that are you measuring your employees and are you evaluating your employees, right? Are you, basically, are you talking to them every day or every month, right? That's key issue. Show the success, right? Are you putting in processes in place and then you say, and then monitor them? Putting processes in place and then forgetting about them does not work. Show the success of your process, right? And I think that when you look at the great successes over this next quarter and this next rest of this year is put something in place, measure it, show the success, show the wins. And that's what the TechVengers Fixed Ops Roundtable is all about. I will come away with another process that will help my employees be better success. It might be something super small, but it might be something super big. Right? When Ted came out and did the pop-up, we talked about rider videos. It's been hard to implement, but boy, do our customers love it, right? These little small things make a big difference for stores. So when they're out there listening to these great speakers that we have today and these great vendor partners that Ted has put together and you put together, these are things you're like, wow, that would work for us, right? Oh, wow, that would really work for us. Try one or two, measure those successes, make that list. You come away with a bunch of notes. Make sure you do one by one. Don't do them all at the same time. Short, small, easy, grow your store. It's super exciting.
Well, Tully, you touched on some great advice for our listeners that are going to be tuning into the Fixed Ops Roundtable over the next 4 days. And so just to recap, take notes, everybody. There's a lot of great content pieces. There's a lot of really good information from thought leaders like Tully Williams. And we've got a lot to talk about, not just in fixed operations, but in warranty, parts, BDC. We're talking about variable operations too on the Fixed Ops Roundtable. There's a lot of really amazing pieces coming up throughout the next 4 days. And so we definitely appreciate you, Tully, for being part of this. And it's so exciting to continue to get to share the stage with you across the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Well, thank you so much. And I can't wait. 4 great days, everybody. Get your notepads out. Let's do it.
Well, everyone, this is Tully Williams, Fixed Operations Director of the Niello Company. I'm Sarah Vantine, and we're kicking off the Fixed Ops Roundtable 90s Rewind event today. Stay tuned. We've got a lot of segments coming up next.
What makes Blue Ash location unique is it's kind of the heart of Cincinnati for our particular demographic. So it makes it a lot easier to service those customers. There's no corporate entity. We're not part of a dealer group. That gives us the ability to be flexible. We can just be us. What makes our team most unique here is the fact that everyone is looked at exactly the same. I'm not too good to wash cars, write up a customer's vehicle, take a loaner car back to a customer. I think that's the definition of team in my eyes.
Jaguar Land Rover of Cincinnati wants to be transparent with the employees and also with the customer and show them that this company does care about the customer and they truly want their cars fixed and repaired properly.
We use the CDK Fixed Ops suite. It has everything that we need to run the dealership. Everything's in one spot, so we can definitely use that to our advantage where we communicate with the technicians from our computer in the service drive. Once they send up an estimate, it goes to parts without the technician leaving their bay. Once the parts estimates are put together, they put that up to the service advisors, and then we sell right from there and then send it back to parts. So easy to go through. And then at the end of the transaction, we also use the pay from CDK, which is awesome. We send a lot of pay links out to customers, so they pay before they get to the dealership. So the paperwork's already done, they're ready to pick up and they can leave from there.
The CDK Fixed Ops Suite allows the service advisor to concentrate on the customer. The latest and greatest one is Service View. That's a big deal for us, and that has been just the biggest game changer. It's changed the entire face of the business, both in customer transparency and trust. No one can say it like a technician. It's the closest thing to having a customer walk out into your bay as a technician and showing them exactly what they need done to their car.
You're able to bring everything together right then and there, show them tangibly what exactly is going on with your vehicle. There's another level of trust that comes with that.
Trying to explain to somebody there's a bubble in a tire, but visually seeing that is like, okay, they actually need to get that fixed. That is a hazard. It points out things that need to be done a lot quicker.
It gives them more value to the money they're spending, and it gives them a reason to say yes to a repair or a service. We've actually seen a 3 to 5 hour improvement on repair orders and gain of hours paid using that system.
The CDK Fixed Ops Suite, it brings everything together. Everything is just automatic. It's seamless. Everything just flows.
We've had record months for the past 14 months.
We've seen a 30% increase in gross profit in our service department in just 1 year, and up 25% in our parts department. We're pushing right at about a 20% increase in CSI. Customers are thanking technicians by their name. It's remarkable.
Without CDK, I don't think we could be as successful as we are today.
The CDK partnership is so important to us is because we use CDK all day long, especially in fixed ops. There's literally nothing that you can do that doesn't require CDK's systems. What I'm most excited about with CDK, the evolution of the product itself. I like the direction it's going. It's going to make people's lives even easier.
Join our great colleague, Shawn Butler, as we discuss the amazing opportunities in the automotive industry.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here with Ted Ings. Ted, we have a very special guest today, one of our dear friends of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, Shawn Butler. Shawn, welcome to the Roundtable.
Thank you, Sarah, so much. Thank you so much for having me. And Ted, thank you for all you do, continue to do for our industry and for me personally. So I really appreciate the opportunity.
Shawn, you are leading the light. You are a breath of fresh air in our industry. And I can't thank you enough on behalf of the retail community for all that you do. And today, what Sarah and I would like to do is kind of get some insights into you, your perspective on the industry, people coming into the industry, advice you can give us, because I think it's really important that we tap into each other's knowledge. And so with that, Sarah and I have prepared some questions. I'm going to let her run with it. And here we go.
Awesome. Let's roll.
Well, Shawn, I've known you for a long time, and it's very amazing the history that you have in the automotive industry. And I think a lot of people don't realize the story behind how you got into the car business to begin with. So how did you first get into the automotive service industry?
Well, I started off as working in a shop, just taking cars apart as a youngster in a paint shop, right? I wasn't a mechanic. I was just taking cars apart and putting them back together by any means. And then I saw this guy doing this paintless dent removal on the lot one day. And I was like, hey, well, that looks pretty cool. So I was over there talking to him, chitty-chatting and whatnot. And before you know it, I'm learning how to do paintless dent removal and going around doing my own thing, and started my own company in 1995. And that ran through 2000 when I actually went to a whole different path. I started actually working in the manufacturing industry. And I was gone out of the business for almost 6 years. I traveled the whole world on somebody else's dime. So it was quite the experience. And then, the long and short behind that is my dad started that company. And after he died, I got screwed. Basically, the other partners forced me out. So at age 37, I had to start over again. So I'm looking around, and next thing I know, I'm a service advisor. And I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. I like this. I can talk to people, different people. It changes all day long. Scenery's not the same, and I can make a very good living doing it. And so with my car background and the ability to speak to people at their level, because I've been from Park Avenue to the park bench, so I can get along with anybody. I went through a 7-year drug addiction, really, really bad with cocaine. And, good Lord lifted me out of that. And then he placed me in a spot to be able to help others. And so ever since that time, I have dedicated myself to trying to lift others up, along with my own self, right? Education, meeting people like you, Ted, smarter people with David Blackburn. He was my very first mentor, right? That really took me under his wing and kind of showed me the whole ropes of behind the scenes. So it's been a wild ride. My goal, I've attained all my goals. My goal was to be a top 10 service advisor. I made the top 10 for Southeast Toyota like 4 years in a row. Then my goal was to be a manager. I became a manager at Town and Country first, then with Scott Clark. And then I started doing my own thing from there. And then I wanted to run multiple stores. And here we are today. So, the good Lord's been good to me. Anything I've asked for, it's been given.
And Shawn, I've never asked this question before, but it seems to me that you and Sarah worked together in retail at some point in the past. Is that right?
We did. Yeah. I remember when Fresh Face came in there through Scott Clark. She's a tall and a little on the thin side, very beautiful woman. And everybody's like, oh, who's that? And then come to find out she had worked for Hendrick. She had a pretty extensive background, but she was going to revamp and start up because Scott Clark didn't have they just had a phone follow-up system. They didn't have a BDC, right? And they sent out those texts. Who's the text that they send? I forget that company's name, but they send out these texts, and it's your opportunity to head off a bad survey. Other than that, they really weren't doing much. But Sarah got in there and just went like a beast. And I remember watching that thing upstairs at Scott Clark go, finally took up the whole dang floor. Yeah, I mean, it was amazing, amazing to watch. And then she took off and did her own thing, and I've just been cheerleading along the whole way. I said, here's somebody I know personally, just a meteoric ride. So, couldn't be prouder to know her.
Well, Shawn, you're not just a student of the business, but you've got great enthusiasm for the business, and it shows. It shows. It shows right now. It shows in all the things that you do when you post on social media, going to the shop, talking to the employees, and so on. What drives your enthusiasm? What makes that happen?
Well, it's my outlook on life. Used to be not all that great, right? Because I kind of felt like everybody was against me, but that was my own thinking. That was the devil in my own mind. As soon as I started putting other people first, my life became much freer, and more things came to me the more I helped others, right? You take a person off the street who has no direction, you put them in express, you watch them, you babysit them, because you see potential in that person. And then you move them over to an apprentice status. And then a year later from that, the guy's turned in 90 to 100 hours. I've got 4 guys right now in our Bristol Honda shop that came through Express. They were Northeast Tech graduates. It's a little local school around here. All 4 of them are flat rate techs hitting 100+ hours every 2 weeks now. And none of them is over 28 years old. And they're killing it. They're making a lot of money. A lot more money than I did when I was 28. That's a good feeling. You watch somebody that can hardly buy a pair of shoes. Next thing you know, they're driving a new car. They got a pretty girlfriend. They're going to get married. They're buying a house. It's amazing to watch the growth. And it's male or female. I'm very female oriented. I have 2 female techs right now, and a third one that's part-time. So yeah, I mean, I love watching the anybody grow, not just one particular, a gender or nationality. I don't care if you're purple and green. If you can do the job, I got you. Come on.
Well, Shawn, your enthusiasm and your support of people really just shines through in your actions. And I'm sure, the history that you've had in your career and seeing so many different things, it gives you a lot of intuition to know, what's coming next or what to anticipate in the business. So I want to ask you, what do you see being the biggest challenges coming in the future for this industry?
Well, the biggest challenge is going to be keeping the youngsters engaged. Because if they're not engaged and enthusiastic about the job, they're not going to be successful. So we have to find little ways all throughout the stages of them growing to celebrate their success and but at the same time, encourage more growth, right? We don't want them to get complacent. Complacency will kill a shop in a hurry if everybody's just happy where they're at. I found that out more than once because I had generous pay plans for the advisors and the technicians. And some advisors will get really lazy on you real quick because if it's an easy pay plan to really bring some bell numbers, which I kind of like that first 2 levels to be kind of easy to hit, you'd be surprised how many will just go, okay, yeah, that's great, instead of pushing a little bit and hitting them other ones. So it's always an encouragement. I have weekly meetings, daily meetings with the shop, weekly with the advisors. I try to get the owner involved. He's focused on sales 100%. So that's actually a good thing for me. So I can just roll on, do whatever I want. So, yeah, within reason, of course. I can't go out and spend 25 grand of his money without asking, but I can go spend 5. So,
Shawn, that enthusiasm shows. We both talked about that. Sarah mentioned that as well. There are big challenges coming in the future in our industry. I want you to think back for a moment. If there's one thing you could change about your career, your life, anything of the above, because you're a role model for a lot of people today and have been for quite a while, what would you change if you could? Would there be anything looking back at now that you'd say, I would have done this, because we've all had different adversities, what would you have done differently?
I probably just would have stuck with one thing a lot earlier. Because you got to remember, I didn't even really get into this side of the business. I was 37 years old. So to go from being an advisor to a manager to a parts and service director to managing multiple locations in really a short period of time. And but I do garner a certain amount of respect because I've been there, done that in almost everybody's shoes that I meet. Sometimes successful, sometimes not, but I had the experience, right? So when people find you relatable, it's a lot easier to get them to open up and share their why, right? Like if I can find out what motivates you, Sarah, and you're working for me, and I devise something that a plan or of action that we can help you get to that why, man, the people are going to love you because you helped them achieve something they didn't think was achievable. You know, that's just, I have a shop right now, and you could not come in my shop and steal somebody over money. You couldn't come in and steal them over culture. It's nothing unusual to see 4 guys under a car if somebody got stuck, right? Nobody leaves anybody to flounder. No man left behind, kind of type of thing, or gal. So it's incredible to me. And the only other thing I would change is my wife. I wish I'd have met her 30 years ago, right? I'd be a lot better off today than I am now. And that's all the way around. You know, my wife is just so awesome. I could not have imagined the good Lord putting a better person in place with me.
Robin is an incredible woman, and y'all's relationship is so inspiring too. And you know, as you've inspired so many other people, there's a lot of people that are watching the Fixed Ops Roundtable today. Some of them are considering a career in automotive. There's some people that are just getting started in their career. There's others that, you know, have been in it for a long time and maybe they're not sure if they should keep going. So when you think about the automotive history that you've had and all the different opportunities, do you think that an automotive career is worth pursuing for somebody today?
Oh, absolutely. But one thing is the resiliency of the automotive industry to overcome anything that's been thrown at it throughout the history of cars, whether it have been when they first unionized, when they had problems with steel. All of a sudden now we got to have EPA. You remember smog pumps they put on cars, the very first thing for back in the 70s? Everybody just cut the belt and rolled on. It didn't really do anything, you know. And then as we go on, and we've got the OBD2 onboard readers. Everybody was like, oh my gosh, when Toyota Care first came out, there's going to be the death of Toyota. They're giving away free oil changes. No, it was brilliant because they trained the customers to come to the dealership for 3 years. And then everybody wants to copy them, right? I mean, even some of the big high-name brands are coming in. Mazda's doing it now. They've totally rebranded themselves. Mazda's got a hot product coming. You know, the other people, the EV's blown up way bigger than it ever should have been. It's going to have a place in the marketplace, but it's dependent on your location, like real estate. You know, out here in a rural dealership like where I got, man, we have to pay all this money for all this equipment. We might see 1 or 2 of them things a year. Go to another Honda in town in Charlotte, they might see 3 or 4 in a day, more than we see all year. So it's really going to go by location as far as your EV uploading, but that's an opportunity to keep the young guys engaged. Most of them are very cerebral. They stay up all night playing video games, right? So if you can channel that enthusiasm that they have for the video games and for the, because I've encouraged people to go chase their dreams, right? And it's not with me. I've helped find them a job in IT or help find them a job with a computer company somewhere. You make phone calls, you'd be surprised where you can get an interview at. And I've had people call me back and thank me for getting them out of the business so they could chase what they loved. And that's tenfold the type of people that have said, thank you for encouraging me and bringing me on board and not being harsh or mean, giving me a path to success. You know, when they see the pathway that you can take, man, it's amazing what people will do if they really love what they do.
You know, Shon, there's no secret you've had a recent health challenge, and I know Sarah wants to ask you about this as well. But before she does, I want to point out that this coming Friday, I'm going for a colonoscopy, the first step for that screening, and I probably wouldn't have done that, Shon, if it were not for you telling me and telling others out here to, be proactive about our health. So I want to ask you, how has what you've been going through the better part of the last year, affected you personally, professionally. We've seen all the updates that you do, and I just want to get your take on that.
Sure. Well, when I first started doing chemo, I had a friend of mine say, man, you said people are interested because, there's a lot of people out there that like you because I was very active in LinkedIn and with your program and everything. So this kind of came out of left field. And so I started doing these updates, and I was doing them every other week. And then I had this kind of famous life coach, I won't name him, actually emailed me on LinkedIn and then called me. And we had like an hour-long conversation, really, really super good. It'd be some of the names that he coaches. Some of the names is incredible. And I was like, wow, well, if this guy got this much contact, I might want to listen to him. And so I started doing them weekly. And I always try to make sure I'm encouraging being proactive, right? Just as we're proactive in our business, right? We're trying to stay ahead and get that next step. Be proactive with your personal health, right? Because it only takes this long for them to step over you and look for the next person, right? So you have to find a way to leave an impact. And I believe my way to leave an impact is to have hundreds and hundreds of successful people that I've been in contact with over the years. But better yet, through the power of internet and the LinkedIn and friends like y'all, we're reaching thousands of people a week with this message. I get so many messages. Thank you so much. I was scared to death. I didn't want to go. I went, and it wasn't near what I had it blown up in my mind. And then I've got the other messages like, thank God you encouraged me to go, because they found out I had a 70% blockage on one side of my heart, and it was on that Widowmaker thing. And, one wrong move and I could have been dead. I would have never known about it. So, I've gotten both ends of the spectrum on that, and it's very gratifying, personally to me, to see people like yourself, like Sarah. She goes to the doctor regular already, so we don't have to worry about her. But, but with the kids she's got running around, she can't avoid it, So it's very, very gratifying to see people getting the message, not only hearing it, but understanding it. I try to keep it simple, If it don't feel right, it ain't right. Go get checked out. It's just that simple. If I had listened to myself, I probably wouldn't be where I'm at right now. I started first feeling something was wrong the fall before, October, November. And then by January, February, I was in serious bad pain, but I still kept toughing it out and putting it off. I'd never failed at anything in my life, never been sick a day in my life. So I figured it would go away. Boy, that was just a bad, bad decision on my part. So by the time I got checked out, I was late stage 3, early stage 4. And most of the doctors, I have adenocarcinoma. If you look it up, it's very, very ugly. It has a 50% survival rate for the first year. So here I am. I'm in the 50% club. And then it has a 30% survival rate for 3 years and almost 0 for 5. So it's a death sentence when you get this one, no matter what they do. All these treatments that they do, they're just trying to buy you time. Well, my wife's very smart. And she said to me a couple of months ago that we had already talked about that if it had spread and gotten to my organs, we weren't going to do anymore, right? Because there's really nothing you can do at that point. And and it was in between chemo and we were going to start radiation. There was like a 6 or 8 week lag time in there. And when I got the new MRIs and the new scans, guess what? There's spots on both lungs in the lower lobes. Now, of course, they want to do all these tests. And I was like, we already know what it is because my lymph nodes are inflamed. Everything, I'm in constant pain every day. You don't have to test crap. We already know what it is. So at that point, we discussed it again and I attempted to do the radiation. And after a week of it, I felt like my insides were on fire. I couldn't do it. I wasn't physically capable of doing the radiation. So I just pumped the brakes on it. And my wife, like I was saying, super smart, way smarter than me. She said to me, Shawn, what good is your quality of life if you're chasing all these things just to get a few more months here and there, but you're spending most of the time sick doing it? Why don't you just enjoy the time you have left, whether it's 6 months or 6 years, and be your normal self versus because the chemo made me not my normal self. I hated the way it made me. So with relief, I dropped it all. I'm at peace with everything. And we're just going to ride it out and have a good time. I'm looking forward to having everybody come visit me in September. We're got a nice big shindig, and I think it'll be a good time for everybody that comes. My wife, she thinks there'll be 200-300 people there. I'm laughing. I'm like, no, not that many people. And she goes, well, if we did your visitation at your funeral, she goes, I would be surprised if less than 300 people showed up. She goes, and you got people coming from all over the country. I said, well, maybe you got a point there. I don't know. We'll see. I'm just there to have a good time.
What are the dates, Shawn? Give us the dates again.
It's going to be September 14th. It's a Saturday. Hold on. Now I got to double check just because I said that. Yeah. September 14th, yep. Saturday. And I'll post the address and the name and the times, but it's come one, come all. We're going to have barbecue. We're going to have beverages of your choice. We're going to have a DJ playing. We're just going to all get together and have a dang good time. That's all.
Well, Shawn, your story and sharing this journey that you've been on in the last year, it really is inspiring to a lot of people, and just your courage in being able to share it. I know it's impacted, as you said, so many people with their own health and taking their health and getting those checks. And so, in closing, one of the last questions that Ted and I want to ask you, what is, if you had to leave everybody today with one thing that you want people to know regarding cancer and other major health issues, what would it be?
Well, I would say that it's beware. We all are aware of breast cancer. We have Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I participate for years, right? And then you have your big ones like your lung cancer and some of these other things that sneak up on people, but not really much. But there's so many cancers out there, so many different types, and many of them are silent killers. One of the reasons that the doctors here in Bristol, the oncologists here in Bristol, wanted me to keep going is because they don't ever get people in my stage. So you have to understand that I didn't tell you all this. So when we did the new MRI and the CT scans a few weeks ago, my tumor had actually split into two. It's now two separate tumors. And it went from being around 11 centimeters, and that's pretty big, to two that are 7 each. So, and they're just metastasizing, moving their way up from my pelvic area, and they're going upwards. So, traditional treatments it laughed. My tumor actually grew 2 centimeters while I was doing chemo the first time. And if you'll remember, I was hospitalized, right? So there's many silent killers out there. They've moved colorectal cancer awareness, that was last month, down to age 45. Used to be 55. Then it was 50. Now they've moved it all the way down to 45. My wife is a member of many, many Facebook groups that deal with even down to the specific kind of cancer I got. And I watched a guy, my same age, almost the same time, and he went right through the regimen. And my wife said it's so pathetic because I haven't tried to do anything different in 20 years. But you start with chemo, then you go radiation, then you go more chemo. Well, this guy, there's another reason I opted out of radiation. In two weeks of radiation, his blood went septic. He never came out of the hospital and died, right? Because of the radiation. I'm not doing that. My dad, same thing. When my dad had brain tumor and they tried to target radiation on his brain, and he ended up his blood went septic, and he never came out of the hospital. So I'd rather enjoy my time when I got left with Lily and with Robin and with you and Sarah, all my friends. I would rather enjoy that time, just get the pain meds right, to where I can function, but I'm not out of it. But I'm also not screaming in pain. So find a happy middle there somewhere. They keep changing it up, and so I just keep rolling with it, man. But the silent killer, please go get checked out at least every 5 years, and you want the full boat screen. You don't go in there and let them just take your blood pressure and check your pupils and all that. I'm talking about, it's a $500 visit, lab work for the blood and everything else, but it could be your life. If I'd have went in November, December, we're not having the same conversation. We're asking about when my surgery's coming or how'd the surgery go. But because I waited so long, too late. I did it to myself. I don't blame anybody.
everybody going to hear a whole lot more about what's coming up in September on the 14th here on the Roundtable, throughout the Roundtable, and fixedopscares.org, which we are establishing as a permanent fixture here at the Roundtable for Shawn and his family, and so much coming out of the love that our community has for Shawn. And Shawn, keep the messages, keep the inspirational
Absolutely.
awareness going.
No,
It's so important.
I'll tell you one thing that really swung in our favor, and I had no idea about this. So I've already rung up, last year you guys were amazing, came through, and literally at the end of the year, I had no, y'all helped me. I had no bills as far as treatment related. And that was a lot of money. It was like 50 grand or more. And so this year I'm already up to like 12 to 15 grand in bills. But as soon as I signed up for hospice, which I did 2 weekends ago, no more bills. No more bills. So, when you sign up for them, they take care of everything. Now I just got to find a way to pay off that 15 grand, and I don't want to leave my wife with that, with having to deal with that. We'll get that handled some way or another before.
All right. Well, let's go, everybody. Let's chip in. We're putting up on the screen fixedopscares.org. Let's help Shawn and his family, and Robin and Lily and his great family.
I know that message is very outdated. The really kind lady, best friend of my wife's, put that up there unbeknownst to me originally when it got started. I need to get with her because she's the keeper of the and go in there and update it and make a new message, which I plan on doing that this weekend, because Lily and Robin and Taylor are in Gatlinburg. They're having a nice time there. So that was nice. I drove them down there yesterday, and a little late for work, but whatever. I don't know how many times you get to do that.
That's right. Well, Sarah, thank you. And Shawn Butler, on behalf of the Fix Ops Roundtable, thank you for all you do for our industry.
Thank you. It's nice to talk about our industry and what's coming up and how we can help. And I'm always willing to help. If somebody gets stuck, if you've got a question, if I can't answer it, I'll find somebody that can answer the question. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. I really appreciate you. The well wishes, the messages, the stories about how you got helped. And sometimes there's some sad stories in there too. It's life, right? But I love the sharing. I love every minute of it. So thank you so much.
Our next speaker is thebomb.com. Please welcome Chief Marketing Officer at AutoFi and President of the Women of Color Automotive Network, Kerri Wise.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine. Today we have Kerri Wise, Chief Marketing Officer at AutoFi and President of WOCAN. Kerri, welcome to the Roundtable today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be back. It's been a little while since I've been on.
Well, Kerri, I remember when we were in person in 2020 at the Fixed Ops Roundtable, and it was event number 4 back then, but you won the Best Practice Award that time. You had the most votes. You had an incredible topic then. So I'm so excited to have you back on the Roundtable this event.
Yes, thank you. And yeah, I remember that, being in person, that was amazing. And that was one of my first, I think, experiences with Fixed Ops, and it was an amazing one. So glad to see it growing and still here, after a couple of 4 years.
It's been so exciting to see how everything's grown. And Kerri, for those of us that are new to listening to the Fixed Ops Roundtable, or maybe haven't had the opportunity to hear you speak, I'd love to have you share a little bit. I know you've worked in automotive for the past 25 years, but tell us a little bit more about your experience.
Yeah, and I fell into automotive like everyone else did. I graduated from college, and an adjunct professor worked at my college by the name of J.D. Power. That is J.D. Power himself. And on the side, he just had a passion for teaching, and he taught a graduate course at my college. Got a job as an intern, and then ended up working and being assigned to the Honda and Acura account for their CSI survey. And so was kind of my first exposure to automotive, and have never looked back. I spent 12 years at J.D. Power, really digging into the dealer and retail experience, and also the consumer shopping experience, why they choose models over other models. Spent a lot of time in training at J.D. Power, consulting and sales, and then moved over to the tech side of the business, going over to Edmunds.com as a head of training, as a head of analytics, eventually marketing. Went over to TrueCar. That was a storied part of my career as their head of marketing and dealer relations. And then now I'm at AutoFi as the chief marketing officer. And so I've seen a lot since 1998, particularly in auto retail and dealers, how they've changed the way they've sold cars. They changed the way they've used technology, and how that's kind of evolved in this last 25 years.
It's incredible to hear your evolution, Kerri, and how you've adapted with the changes in the technology and with the industry over time. For those that may not know, who is AutoFi? What is AutoFi?
Yeah, so AutoFi is a technology. We work with players across the whole entire automotive industry, from dealers to OEMs to banks to third-party marketplaces, and they're using our technology to power their sales and financing experiences. When it comes to dealers, that is anything from digital retailing, deal estimation, desking, lender routing, and even F&I menus. So it's the whole gamut, from the online experience all the way through that showroom experience. And we like to say we want to help dealers sell smarter, not harder. Goes back to like this customer experience, but more importantly, how can we make your process more efficient using technology?
Well, I love that you touched on the whole evolution of technology and what is happening with consumers and how they're choosing to purchase vehicles, how they're choosing to finance and consider those, other products as they go about purchasing their car. What have you been seeing in terms of the evolution of how dealers are using technology in the customer experience?
Yeah, I mean, if I go back to 25 years, I remember being at J.D. Power and just doing surveys of consumers and asking them how they shop for a dealer. And newspaper was one of the options, right, that they actually used as a way of finding a dealer. So we have evolved, thankfully, into using technology. But I would say like more has changed in the last 5 years than probably the 25 years, I've been in the business. And, we used to think of technology as a way to engage and get more leads. I think the promise of digital retailing in this last 6 or 7 years was, hey, dealers, you don't have to buy leads. You can actually, generate them yourselves. You can power your own showroom and technology experience yourself using digital retail. But I think the promise of digital retail has not been realized. I think there was the idea that putting a widget on your side and enabling this kind of online experience or giving technology to the customer was going to just make everything easier. Customers are just going to be able to buy a car online if they wanted. And even on the fixed op side, right? Like you're hearing technology, and sometimes we oversimplify technology. And I think what we are seeing today is that it really isn't about just a magic bullet, a silver bullet, as they say, that like, let me just get the technology and all of a sudden everything's streamlined. It's very much about the people and process. And the reason why we haven't seen a lot of adoption from a consumer standpoint in terms of digital retailing technology, in terms of using it, is that we have still some legacy challenges in terms of the process itself. And that process isn't necessarily matching up with the technology. And so to answer your question, where is it going? You know, I see this next phase of technology, and I'm not just talking about sales. You'll hear me reference a lot, but there's so many parallels to financing and to fixed ops as well, is arming our team with this technology to do two things. One, to help bridge the trust gap with the customer. And let's touch on that one first, because I think there's so much to unpack there. But you know, we all know that customers come in to a dealership, no matter what area of the dealership you're in, and they come up with a little chip on their shoulder. Maybe they had a poor past experience. They have a perception of dealers, and that causes them to want to question and fight everything, right? Whether it be the price of the car, whether it be when you recommend certain things I need in service, whether it be the interest rate when I'm getting a loan in terms of financing, or whether I need extended warranty. And so what we have found is that technology bridges that trust gap. That if I see something on a screen, I'm more likely to actually believe it than what comes out of somebody's mouth. And I think what happens is our resistance to technology has caused us to stick to legacy ways of doing things. People, for on the sales side, back and forth to the desk to get pricing, right? On the service side, someone just calling me and telling me what I need on my car versus showing me via a video or allowing me to have some choices on what I get done on my car. And I think technology and seeing something on the screen bridges that. Also giving people choices. And so I'm one of those people, and there's lots of studies that have shown that if you give people even like 3 choices, they're much more likely to make a decision. And they're not going to choose the lowest choice. They typically will choose that middle choice. And so I think of technology, whether it be showing an F&I menu, or whether it be when I just got my car serviced, he called me and said, there's $4,000 worth of stuff that needs to be done. It's my kid's car, by the way. It's a used car. Maybe that wasn't the best choice, but $4,000. But these are the things you have to get done. These are the things that are safety issues. Well, guess what? I did all the safety issues. Why? Because he gave me some choice. He showed me everything on a screen. He texted it to me. I could review it with him. And to me, I felt better moving forward into that process because it was on a screen and because he gave me some choices. I had a perceived control of the experience. Maybe it wasn't really control. Maybe I did pay more than I should have. It didn't feel that way though.
I'm glad that you touched on that, because when you described that service experience with the advisor, and then you also described the customer experience in F&I, and during the course of purchasing a vehicle, those are typically the spots where there's a lot of bottlenecks in that experience. And so I would just love to get your perspective on that for a second. What are some of the ways that a dealer can, really fine tune and speed up that process to remove those bottlenecks?
Yeah, so I think when we look at technology, technology has to be flexible. And so we have to give consumers choices on how they engage with the technology. For example, on the retail sales side, some might want to do end-to-end on the website, or they want to do a lot on the website. Most consumers want to start and do something on the website and then transition into dealing with somebody else. Or it could be I walk into the store and you present me the technology on an iPad or on your computer. But we got to give choices, and that technology experience has to be consistent no matter how I interact. I will tell you on the service side, as just a customer, one, I love making an appointment. I'm just one of those people, I will not pick up the phone. I just don't want to talk to you to get an appointment. So I love my dealer where I can go on and make an appointment and tell them what I need. And even if I have some issues, let them know up front. That way, when I get into the facility, I'm not starting from scratch. I don't have a lot of time. So now they can pick that up where it left off because I've already started the experience online. I love the aspects when you talk about removing the bottlenecks and disconnects. When you're working on my car and you want to communicate with me, I love the idea of getting a text or getting an email. Even if you're going to call me, the fact that I have it on my phone and I can reference it, it just streamlines that experience. And my particular service facility, I can deny or accept what they're recommending even before I talk to them. And that it happened the other day. The guy's calling, the service supervisor's calling me. He can't reach me. Of course, I'm not answering the phone. I look at the text. I can at least accept and deny. And he can get started on some things without waiting to talk to me. And so I think when you talk about technology, it's not replacing people. It's actually making their job more efficient and easy so that they can focus on the things that matter. It doesn't make sense for him to wait to work on my car until he can reach me. If he can do some things right now, absolutely, that's going to remove some time from the experience. And what we end up finding is when it is a more streamlined experience, people are actually more likely to be happier. Let's just start with that, consumers, but they actually spend more money. I mean, we have seen the numbers. They will spend more money on the sales side. We find an increase in $600 in back end profit, mainly from buying F&I products, when we can present numbers in the showroom faster, when there's not the back and forth to the desk, and we empower our salespeople to have more independent conversations. You're seeing it from a profitability standpoint.
But I want to go and touch back on what you said a moment ago when you were talking about the evolution of the sales experience. And also you talked a little bit about the process pieces. And I want to go back to that because I thought that was a really important component to just share your insight with the roundtable today. There's definitely resistance on the sales side. Things have been overall pretty good the last few years as it pertains to sales. And we're seeing some of those adjustments happening, this year with it. And some dealers, there's a little bit of resistance in adopting a digital or putting technology into that customer experience for the reasons you were just pointing out a minute ago. Like, well, if I can't get them on the phone, they're going to have to buy a car somewhere, or they're going to have to show up and, come into the showroom and wait to get figures. And this is the way that we were doing it during COVID, and here we are today. So in your experience, is there resistance by dealers in adopting a digital or a new technology platform in the customer experience?
There absolutely is. And it looks a little different. Sometimes that is at the top. It's, hey, things are going fine right now. And I don't want to adopt something new that's going to disrupt what I'm currently doing. There's also resistance in terms of the users, right? You might be a sales manager that's like, I don't want my salesperson having more independence on working a deal. Or you're a finance director. I don't want my salespeople presenting F&I products, right? And so they're thinking of it in a way that's like, it's replacing me. And so a couple things from an ownership, a dealer principal standpoint, I think you have to look at the big picture in terms of where we sit today. One, we are past the environment where profit was high. There was no inventory. Customers were coming to you and begging you for the car. We're past that now, right? Inventory is back to the level. We're not seeing the heydays, the great days of just like making a ton of money and not having to put as much effort, right, into finding the customers. But more importantly, I just looked at some NADA data. And it shows that the cost of running a dealership over the last 5 or 6 years has gone up like 35%, in terms of payroll. We are spending more money to run our dealers. But if you even look at the sales side and the number of cars the average salesperson sells on the new vehicle side, it is 10 cars a month. And it was 10 cars back in 2015, and it is 10 cars today. So the cost to run a dealership has increased. Our productivity has not increased. And I think technology, if I was an owner, I'd be looking at that saying, not to replace people, but how can we empower people with technology that helps them be more efficient, move faster, get more cars out? And we're absolutely seeing that it's not just a overall profit standpoint. It's also, we are getting more out of every single person that is using that technology. From a user standpoint, I think it's important just to remind everyone that technology, it's not about replacing people. Now, we have some stores that are one person, one price, and that does happen where they don't feel like they need certain positions. But for the most part, our stores have the traditional roles. And it's not about replacing you. I think about my phone, and when I go and drop my kid off 30 minutes to soccer practice, I will pull up Google Maps to map my route to soccer practice. That's not because I'm not competent. That's not because I don't know how to get to the soccer field. It's because traffic changes every single day. And I live near LA. So for me, I need to optimize my time. And Google Maps knows at the real-time traffic that's happening right now and is going to tell me, don't take the 101, take this freeway instead. And I think of our technology the same way. We offer a consumer to get a credit app and get lender decisions. It's not that the sales manager or the F&I director don't know what lenders to send, but things change all the time. And the lenders that are great a week ago or a month ago may not be the best optimized lenders today. And the technology can stay on top of that and guide you to actually make better decisions. And so we need to get past that fear and see more of the opportunity and not be held back by the status quo.
Kerri, you have shared so much incredible information with our audience today. And just in the last few minutes that we have, I want to touch on this because I know this is near and dear to your heart. And it's also I'd love to see the evolution of WOCAN in the industry and all of the ways that y'all are growing the community. So for everyone that's listening, Kerri Wise is the co-founder and president of WOCAN. Can you share with the audience today a little bit more about it?
Yes. So WOCAN stands for Women of Color Automotive Network. Wow, it's a mouthful. We should have thought about that when we created the name, but it is what it is. And it's a nonprofit. It is geared towards attracting, connecting, empowering women of color in the industry. And this is pretty much what we would call minorities, Black women, Latina, Asian, Native American. We have 1,000 members, of which about 150 are actually our allies. So men and white women who have also joined us to support the cause. And for us, when you look at women of color, we are the most underrepresented segment of the automotive industry. We represent about only 6 to 7% of the automotive industry. And so for us, and for me, as someone who has navigated this industry, loves this industry, I saw this as like such an opportunity that not only women don't know about, but women of color in particular are just not aware of it. And so part of us is like about providing information about these opportunities in this industry and getting more women to join. But our first priority is actually just connecting and empowering the women that exist in this industry, because being 6 to 7%, you are typically the only one in every room you're in. You're probably the only woman of color at your dealership. Even on the vendor side, in many cases, you might be the only woman of color. You might be the first. I know so many women of color that literally, Amanda Gordon, first ever Black woman to ever be a car dealer in the state of Colorado in the year 2019. And so I think there is a different level of pressure when not only you're the only one, but you're literally the first to ever do it. And there's no playbook in front of you. There's nobody to kind of guide you along that. And so I think WOCAN kind of fills that gap. we want to kind of help them and really like reveal that playbook and reveal, how can they navigate this industry? How can they level up and make the most of their careers in this business?
Kerri, it is so inspiring to hear your story and all of the wonderful things that you've accomplished in the last 25 years and how you're continuing to elevate the automotive industry for not only women, but everybody in this industry. If people want to learn a little bit more about WOCAN or AutoFi, what is the best way to get in touch or to learn more information?
Yeah, so AutoFi.com, you can learn a lot about us and see a video of kind of the things that we do and the problems that we solve in the dealership. You can also reach out to me at kwise@autofi.com or on LinkedIn. From a WOCAN standpoint, our website's a little trickier. It's WOCAutonetwork.com, WOCAutonetwork.com. And you can check out WOCAN, become a member, whether you're a woman of color or an ally, and then you'll be on our list. So you'll hear about our upcoming virtual events and in-person events. So we'd love for you to join us and check us out.
Everyone, Kerri Wise, Chief Marketing Officer at AutoFi and President of WOCAN, here with us today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you, Sarah.
What up, dealers? Joe St. John from AutoFi. You might recognize me from the recent video highlighting AutoFi's all-new in-showroom solutions. My team and I have worked with dealers nationwide to launch AutoFi in their showrooms. And through that work, we are seeing dealers achieve unprecedented results with faster deals and higher back-end PVR upwards of $1,000. We want every dealer to see it for themselves. So we're taking this show on the road. I'm loading my family up in this van and we're hitting the streets, visiting dealers in every major market nationwide. I want to show the power of AutoFi in the showroom and how it can elevate the sales process and deliver real results. Check out the roadshow schedule to see when I'm in your town and request a visit. AutoFi is coming to a showroom near you. I'll see you there.
I love the term bridge because there is a gap. Our dealers are experts, they do this every day. Consumers do not. We don't even service our vehicles every day. So when it does come time that we're considering possible transaction, we're going to base the decision to transact, sell a car, buy a car, do service with someone based on the information I can receive. If I can't get it from my dealer, I'm going to get it somewhere else, and that's how we want to empower our dealers. So if we can bridge that relationship, and create that trust, you're going to have a very loyal customer.
Don't go chasing waterfalls. Feel the rain on your skin as we return to the Fixed Ops Roundtable 90s Rewind event.
This panel has got the best band in automotive. Put your hands together for the AutoMax TechVengers panel.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. It's a great pleasure to welcome back the AutoMax TechVengers panel. Joe Lockard is here. He's the owner and operator of AutoMax Training and Recruiting. Joe, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Yeah, thanks, Ted. It's always great to be here. If I'm not mistaken, I think this might be our 10th, and we're going into year 3 of doing these. And I say it time and time again. It's been huge for us, and hopefully it's provided some value to the entire industry. I know we have a lot of fun doing it.
And I've heard from a lot of people, some on this panel and many off the panel, that this is the one they tune into. This is the one they want to hear and see. So I know you got a great panel ahead of us. I'm going to step out of the way and let you get things started. Here we go.
Thanks, Ted. All right. So, as always, I like to go around the room. If there is, if this is your first time joining us, I want to make sure I give proper intros to our esteemed panel here. And it's a special episode here, and it's a special introduction because I'm going to start with Michael Weldon, who is the former Fixed Ops Director for the Hansel Auto Group. Mike Weldon's retired, everybody. And my first question, of course, was, first I was a little shocked, Mike, but then it was, are you still going to do the panel? He's like, yeah, of course. If you'll have me, I'm going to do the panel. So congratulations, my friend.
I'm finding myself more busier than I was when I was working.
I know. I know you're kind of semi-retired. They didn't let you. There's no clean break there, right?
No.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it. I mean, I enjoy the camaraderie. Enjoy this group. A lot of professionals here. A lot of experience, and I learn every day. So I appreciate you allowing me to continue, and I want to contribute and continue to do this for a long time.
Please. And I love the retirement shirt. I know you said you were underdressed, but I think it's perfect, man. Nothing says retirement like a Hawaiian shirt.
That was pretty nice there too.
Well, thanks for sticking around and hopefully you stay around for another 10, 15 years, sir. So thanks for being here. Next, Tom Drzezinski. Tom is Director of Service Operations for Woessner Automotive Group, and the beard just keeps going, my friend. Looking beautiful. How are you?
Excellent. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for being
hoping
here.
it's like belly length by Christmas. You know? It's just
what's end game here? Is it just going to keep going?
No, this is it. I can't let it go much more than this. So
Let me. We haven't talked on a personal level. So, if you don't mind, you have kids?
I do. I have two daughters.
Are they younger?
26 and 15.
Okay, so my kids are a little younger, and I'm literally not allowed to shave. When I shave, there's anger in the household. It changes everything. It's like it takes a couple days, and they're not happy about it. So
when my youngest was little, I shaved my beard and I trimmed my hair down, and she wouldn't look at me for like a week. She just turned her, didn't bury her face into her mother, and that was it.
Yeah, I got to call house meeting and everything. It's serious business. But look sharp, my friend. Thanks for being here. Next is my friend Shawn Kingrey. Shawn is VP of Fixed Ops Operations, for the Kaiser Automotive Group in Wisconsin. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm great. It's not snowing anymore. We're done with that finally, I think.
Yeah, you guys get like 2 months of quote unquote spring,
right.
summer, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Break the lawnmower out. I get these little grass going. No, it's all great. Things are good. Business is good. I mean, realistically, I have nothing to complain about. And, to Ted's point, it's not just a line. This is definitely the panel we get the most feedback on.
Good, man. That means a lot to me. And like I said, I really enjoy working with you guys. So thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Next is Robert Migliaccio. Robert is Service Director for CMA Valley Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram in Stanton, Virginia. How are you, sir?
Doing well, sir. Enjoying the 81-degree snow weather that we have here in Virginia. It's been quite difficult to deal with. So,
yeah.
It's been good. Glad to be back on the panel. Enjoy this one. This is probably one of my favorite ones to be on. So, just happy to be here with all these minds.
You've been an awesome addition. I enjoy having you here. And like I say, time after time, I enjoy your social media world. You give some nice glimpses. What'd you do? You repaired you had a disaster in your bathroom recently.
Yeah, we had a little issue in the bathroom. So I had to do a lovely weekend remodel.
Yeah, you throw it out there on social media. I love it, man. We get to see into your life. I appreciate it. It's fun.
It's a lot of fun. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. All right, next is our good friend and longtime member of the group, Tully Williams, Fixed Ops Director for the Niello Company in Sacramento. How are you, sir?
Fantastic. I'm here with my good brother, Robert. We're both companies over 100 years in business. It's a big deal for Robert and ourselves and Niello. So we're excited. I love this panel. You know why? Because I'm all about the hours. And without techs, can't sell any parts and hours. So this is a big deal.
That's right. That's awesome. I didn't know you guys were 100 years. That's beautiful, man. Congrats. Very cool. Last, but certainly not least, is our resident technician superstar. It's Marco Zwanenburg. Marco's automotive technician with over 20 years experience, currently working for Naples Luxury Imports. How are you, my friend?
I am doing just fine. I am great. Glad to be here. Love this panel. Love hanging out with you guys. We should do this more often.
Yeah, we should. We should just hang out. Just get together.
Right. Just chill.
Yeah, just go camping, do something like that, have a few drinks. I'm ready.
I'll bring us more.
So we're coming down to you. I'm coming down to Naples. No, there's a lot of cold weather on this panel. We got you guys out in Cali. We could either one. I'm fine.
One down.
You guys pick. All right, I want to jump in here. We, as always, we have a lot to get to. I want to make sure everyone has a chance to share. This is, like I said, this is our 10th panel, 10th installment of the TechVengers panel. And we've covered a ton in the previous 9 episodes, which can sometimes make it a little challenging to keep things fresh. And you know, we always find one little topic that we just go with, and you know, it's not always going to be 100% new. But I like to make sure we're hitting all the areas. In my opinion, what makes our panel so valuable is first the diversity in the perspectives, right? You know, you have myself on the, you know, quote unquote vendor side as a consultant and a recruiter. Most of you as fixed ops leaders, as service managers or fixed ops directors. And of course, as I mentioned, the voice of the technician, Marco, really allows us to look at things from a number of different angles. So even if it is the same topic kind of being rehashed, we tend to find different ways to look at it and make sure everyone, you know, has a voice. And then second is the dynamic nature of the fixed ops world, which is constantly changing. You know, it's weekly, it's monthly, it's yearly, and just when you think you have it figured out, everything changes. So anyway, in preparation of this, you know, we were kind of kicking around some ideas that we wanted to talk about, you know, what's going on right now in the industry, good, bad, or otherwise. And, you know, it didn't take long for us to head down the path of talking about specifically the role of the automotive technician and how that role has been evolving and might be, you know, undergoing some more significant changes here in the next few years. So that's what I want to focus on, and that's where I want to start here, because obviously, you know, in order to recruit and retain technicians, you need to know what's important to them and what they value within the role, and in defining that role and letting them have input in defining that role, frankly. So Marco, again, I want to start with you. As I said, you're kind of our eyes and ears. You're kind of the catalyst, if you will, to get the ball rolling. I think you do provide, not just as a technician, but the type of technician you are and the type of person you are, another interesting perspective. You're a very public person. You're on social media a lot. You don't just go in and punch the clock and turn wrenches and head home. You've mentioned, I think on the previous show, you have big plans for your life after being a technician. And you had mentioned to me that you are seeing, and you certainly yourself feel that there's a movement towards technicians being more forward facing, whether that's with the customer or just within the dealership. And of course, being recognized more, but again, not just being the you know, guy in the back turning the wrenches and keeping his mouth shut, but being more visible. Can you speak to that a little bit, both in your experience and where you see it going, or where you'd like it to go?
Yes, of course, Joe. It'd be my pleasure. So I'm actually creeping close to almost 30 years of turning wrenches. And what I have noticed, and this is something that I had briefly talked to Ted Ings about, actually, who, you know, some of you might know, about when I started in this business, the technicians were, you know, in a box. We were way in the back. We were like, oh, no. What do you mean you want to talk to the no. There's not even a phone in there. Now, what do we have? We have big windows looking into the shop, giving people a glimpse of what's going on. But especially with all these MPIs and the pictures and the video presentations, like we have contests on who does the best video presentation. So here is me, the technician, being a face for the dealership towards the customer. They're actually seeing so much more now of what's going on behind what used to be closed doors. They can see that, oh, wait a minute, it's like these are actually highly educated, highly skilled people. Sure. And they have to deal with tremendously complex things. So what I also enjoy about actually having contact with customers is that you can ask, as a technician, we can ask questions that, and nothing against advisors, but that they just may not think about. Sure. That if need be, yeah, of course, you know, I'd like to go home rich and tired, like Tully would say, so I'd like to be in my bay and working. But if there's something that I'm chasing and I can't quite pinpoint it, it'd be great if I can go for a quick test drive with the customer, or have the customer send me a video, a picture, a sound clip, anything along those lines. So what I am seeing more and more is that the technician is taken out of this cave, out of this darkness, and that dealerships are starting to realize that, wait a minute, like these technicians, they carry the dealership. They are so important, so valuable. And this comes down to, again, culture. We've spoken about this many times, but also recognition that we actually are taken out of the, oh, no, don't deal with them, to, hey, you know what? Let's bring them forward. Let's bring them out. They're important. They're a very important part of the dealership. Let's use that instead of hiding them.
Yeah. Well, and you know, what better way to build brand loyalty and customer loyalty? You know, people usually have someone on the front end. You have your salesperson. Oh, I work with this guy. If you can match that with a technician, you know, you're not going anywhere else. You're going to keep buying that model of car, and you're going to keep buying it from that same dealership. And now you don't feel nervous. You know, there's that anxiety. I don't trust them. What if you can look your technician in the eye, have a conversation with them, and know I'm not taking my car anywhere for any other reason ever? I think it's going to build that connection big time. And yeah, you spoke to, obviously, you know, it's tough for the tech. They got to turn hours to make money, but at the same time, you got techs commanding big money out there, $60, $65 an hour. And you're looking for ways to add, you know, them to add more value to the dealership and to the bottom line and to your process. Get them out there when they have time and let them speak for themselves.
Absolutely. And a nice feature is also from having contact with customers is that you will build your own client base. Sure. You will be requested by customers, which is great for the technician itself. So, right. So I see long
term instead of short-sighted. I got to turn hours. You're thinking of the future and building that customer base, like you said.
You're planting seeds for the future. So not just, you know, reap it now, but keep it going, keep it growing.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Appreciate it, Marco. Mike, I want to come to you first. Again, we're celebrating your semi-retirement, and I want to give you first crack at this. Is this something that you see that techs even want? Because again, not everyone's cut out for this. And you're not asking them to sell. You're not asking them to fully replace a service advisor, you know, nor should they. But at the same time, you might have technicians who are highly skilled, and this just isn't something they're comfortable with. But is this something that you came across in your time with Hansel, with the industry, and have you seen any changes there?
Well, I don't know that we've seen changes. I think we've grown some attention to that segment of our business that most customers weren't connected with. I come from the back side of the shop, and I always started when I went into any store is that I went back into the shop to identify the personalities that I can utilize, that I can then expose and build that relationship with consumers. Yeah, because they only see the riders up front, but when they see the technicians and they talk to the technicians, I love that. I love that, and the technicians, they love it. I mean, you'd be really surprised that if given the opportunity, how many technicians would come forward. But we've structured the business in such a way that they're the mechanical part of it, and we got to get away from that. We've got to bring them into it because this is what it's going to take as this business continues to evolve.
Yeah, I think so. And like you said, not for everybody, right? You know your guys, you know the ones that are going to be more comfortable with that, or even that you want taking on something like that. But there are going to be those ones that want a little more. And you know, end of the day, there are things more important than money. And we've talked about recognition on here a lot. And I got to assume, obviously, I've never been a technician, but it's got to get hard just being back there. And the money's great and recognition in that way. But being able to come out there and, you know, actually speak with the person who you're helping out, you're taking away their pain and getting the pat on the back, because I think the advisors probably take that a lot of the time because they're the ones talking to them. They hand the keys over to them. So I think just from an emotional standpoint of being a human being and wanting to be told you did a nice job, it's probably nice for them to be connected.
Yeah, and then walking out there, and even if they're not customer facing, but ask their opinion, and then go back and communicate that to the consumer. There's a connection you now have that, hey, this guy is going to go and make sure he gets the information that I need, and he's going to convey it to me.
Absolutely.
So
makes everybody feel better. I agree.
Important.
Yep. All right. Thank you, sir. Tom Jasinski, I want to come to you next here. What do you see from your guys? Do you have any guys doing this? And look, it doesn't even have to be just customer facing. Like I said, I think I saw not too long ago client that we worked with in Michigan. He's got up in the rafters. He's got pictures and posters of all of his technicians up there, so that everyone can see these are guys. So there's different ways to do this. They don't have to come out and talk to the customers.
Yeah, and that's true. And Marco mentioned something in his opening there where if you're not doing it now, you will soon. But video MPIs are not going away.
Yeah.
and this is something that we're starting to see as we're rolling out in more and more stores. There are technicians that I thought would hate doing video MPIs, and they're having a great time. They're creating characters. They're loving being able to, even though they're not connecting face to face with a customer, they're actually having those kind of interactions, and they're being able to speak naturally and just talk and show off a little bit about what they do. But also, I think that we're right around the corner from having technicians that aren't even necessarily in the shop. If you think about it, since like 2018, Mercedes-Benz, you've been able to diagnose vehicles while they sit in the customer's driveway. You can run short tests, you can pull codes, you can do all of those sort of things. So we're not far off from having offices, technicians that work in their own office, and they're diagnosing the cars for the next 2, 3, 4 days out, special ordering the parts so that when they come in, you've got technicians that are just installing the parts. The role of the technician is changing pretty rapidly. I mean, I have this vision. If anybody's ever watched the movie Monsters, Inc., one of my favorite scenes is in the beginning when the scarers are walking out and everybody's like in awe and they're back up, and it's just like this group of just badass scarers are walking through. That's our technicians. We should put those men and women on that level of a pedestal, because without them we're dead in the water.
Yeah. Yeah, very important right now for sure. I don't know how we missed that, and not just diagnosing from home and working out in an office, but mobile technicians. Robert Stage used to be on this panel with us, and he owned a mobile tech operation in Columbus, Ohio, and he's going on to be a tech instructor now. But you talk about, I mean, that's the whole thing, right? I mean, that job's almost 50-50, the mechanical side of it and the customer service side of it, and that's going to be a big industry going forward, you'd think. So yeah, it's you don't know exactly where it's going to go, but I think just being more forward facing and more recognition and maybe a little more streamlined with the process, I think is probably on the horizon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Tom. All right, Shawn, I want to come to you next. We've talked before, and obviously you oversee a number of dealerships and you get around to all of them, and I'm sure you spend, adequate time, enough time with the technicians and of course the service managers. What do you hear back from them? Is this something that is going to have to be pushed a little bit, that maybe you got to nudge them a little bit and get them more comfortable with this? Or do you think there's guys that are already wanting to spend more time, talking with the customers directly?
Well, I think I can feed off what Marco and Michael and Thomas have all said. I think it's the more norm now that we get into it. Miggs and I did a tech panel, a young tech panel together earlier. And I'm going to tell you, so we all brought a technician into it. I'm going to tell you, we had a lot of fun. And I don't think Miggs and I talked 20 words during the entire thing.
Oh, nice.
No, it's true. The techs do all the talking. You're going to have some of your, and I hate to use the word prima donna, but you're going to have some of your prima donna techs in the back that aren't going to want to do it. I get that, okay? But it's more like the people like Marco. They want to come out front. They're not opposed to it. They wanted to do it for years. It's us that wouldn't let them do it. And now it's the opposite of that, okay? And as we do evolve, and Thomas is so right, Miggs and I are both, even though I have a bunch of other domestic stores, but, Chrysler does a lot of things wrong, but their Y Advisor program, by the way, does it very right. You could pretty much diagnose the car. God strike me down for even saying this out loud on the service drive, guys. It tells you you're not doing anything different than the tech's going to do in the back. That's pulling the codes, and it's telling you the bulletins that's going to fix the car.
Sure.
It's really about as close to mobile service on the service drive as you're going to get.
Right.
So that being said, to answer your question, I think 90% of your techs, and Tully will probably yell at me for that, using that number later, but 90% of your techs already want to do it anyway. You just got to give them permission and the comfortableness to do it, okay? Yeah. When we did ours, and I'll get off my little soapbox here, but when Miggs and I did that panel earlier, the tech I have in there is a tech that's been with 7 years. He's been with the group from the tech college all the way through, and now he's a Ford Master Tech. But after we got done, an hour later, I walked through the shop, and every one of the techs now, when do we get to our recording?
Nice.
Hey, that's not norm for a tech, but they want to, and that's what it comes out of. One guy, he did do the pop-up event too, but there was 3 techs up there, but they all want a piece of it. Nice. Even the old 40-year-old, been there for 40-year tech, he's like, are they going to have a senior panel next? Well, hey, no, but to my point, and Marco, you can tell me I'm wrong. I think most of the techs want to do it. They want to be interactive. And I think the advisor role changes in the near future because of it.
Yeah, I think so. I see it from my personal experiences when I take my car in and speak to advisors. It can be more of a greeter role at this point. I don't know that they have to be so, I don't want to use the term knowledgeable, but maybe so involved on the actual details of the repair and that sort of thing. And look, you mentioned the prima donnas. Like I said, this isn't just about talking with the customer. It's about, like I said, recognition and being forward facing. So, let's talk about the variable side. How many prima donnas are there on that side of the dealership? Every single top salesperson on every sales floor is a prima donna, but we're giving them recognition, right? They got there now. I drive past a local dealership here, and I'm not going to plug them because they're not a client of mine, so they can do their own publicity. But they put a big picture. He's got his championship belt on. Salesman of the Month is on their big digital billboard in front of the store with his championship belt. Well, where's the technician of the month, right? Like, I think we've been doing things on the variable side that can very easily be translated to the tech side and accommodate making them just more visible and more forward facing.
Especially now, and I know Tully's got to speak yet, and we're all waiting for Tully. We all know that. But now that fixed absorption, guys, with floor plan interest, it's coming from us now. We said it a year ago. We've talked about it, all these panels and everything we've done. If you don't know what fixed absorption is, we said it last year during panels. You better learn what it is, guys. Fixed absorption now is more important than ever. We're paying the bills, solidly paying the bills, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Tully, you're going last. I'm saving you for last. Sorry. Robert's going next. Robert, thanks, Shawn. Robert Migliaccio, what is your take on this? And look, I know I bring it up and I bring it up and I bring it up, but you get your guys forward facing because you got them out in the world, and then you're putting them on social media, so they don't really have a choice because they're out there, at dinner with you, at playing basketball with you. So you've already kind of exposed them to that. Have any of them, maybe some of the younger guys, asked, hey, what can I do to be more visible on social media if it's not speaking with the customer? Again, just kind of building yourself as a professional and being known.
So we try to run that model across all positions, so advisors, technicians, and stuff like that, to get them involved. Like everybody said, there's a different kind of grouping of people back there, and the way that they interact with the customer, there's a definitive difference in how the advisor talks to the customer and how the technician is going to talk to the customer. It's no doubt situation. I like to go medical with a lot of them to help explain where we're going. And it's kind of like going to the dentist. You have your person who's going to clean your teeth, and you have a person who's going to fix your teeth. One person is going to give you all the basic stuff and really kind of wow you and try to upsell you all the other extra stuff that you need on the vehicle. And then you got the one who's really going to take care of the bad stuff and fix it and tell you what you need to do to keep it right. So that's kind of the goal of what we're doing here. We're treating the car, if you look at it, no different than our body and whatnot. So utilizing them and allowing them to kind of have a voice on the drive is definitely something we encourage. The advisors are definitely 100% involved with getting the technician either on the phone in the lane or getting the customer facing with the technician to allow them to do some of the triage diagnostic work just verbally. Because a lot of times, like Marco said, there's questions that are going to come to their mind when they're dealing with a certain situation that we're just not going to recognize and identify. The advisor's not going to recognize and identify, but they've seen it over and over again, so they know what ticks that need to be asked in order to kind of get that information out to verify what's going on with the vehicle, noises, wind noises, water leaks, you name it, audio system in-op and not working situations. Yeah, they kind of go through all these one-off situations where, again, the advisor may not get all the right information or get enough information at the time. So it's definitely been helpful. And as I was looking at everybody talking, I'm trying to think, like, what else do I have here? And I might steal some thunder from Tully on this one. But if you think about the EV customer and where they are, it's a customer base that knows their vehicle very well and wants to have a extensive conversation, more so than the customer with the ICE vehicles have had in the past, where you might only had a handful of customers that really want to get that deep and involved in that conversation or have those questions, where the EV customers are 100% in there, just know their vehicle, have tons of questions. And
interesting,
quite frankly, the technicians are going to have, and probably more than the information than we would really expect the advisors to kind of foresee. We want the advisors to be just as strong and confident with it. But again, working on the vehicle, I think, gives you a total different basis and understanding of what's going on and how to interact and have those conversations to really make them stand out. So I think it's definitely important.
Yeah. And like I said, I don't see it as a replacement for advisors by any means or getting to that point. More just, teamwork. And like I said, I see you taking your team out and having everybody kind of being a unit, and you have the advisor and the technician working together. There's certainly, going to be times that the advisor isn't able to speak to the same things that the technician is. But of course, the advisor is able to put a little more finesse on it. And there's certainly going to be technicians, like we said, that have zero interest in sitting there and trying to explain these things to a customer. So I don't think it's a complete removal of that role or a 100% streamlined, but definitely having everybody on the same page and making the technician more comfortable and allowing, like you said, Shawn, just allowing them that opportunity, I think is big for the entire industry.
And the brag, like Shawn said, when we got off that panel earlier, my door to my office exits right into the shop, and I hear my technician out there talking to my shop foreman. Hey, what were you doing in there? What's going on? And he was trying to tell him what he was doing, and big smile on his face. It was encouraging. It was nice. I really enjoyed that aspect of what we did. So
sure, but this makes you feel cool, right? We're important people here talking on this panel. I'm sure it's probably nice for them. It's something they probably haven't tried before. That's awesome. All right, and last but not least, Tully. I'm sorry, you're such a good closer, Tully. I try to rotate these things pretty well, but you're just a tremendous closer, my friend.
Well, I want to say this is that I think Marco said it right, is that we like to treat the technician as owning their own stall. We don't own the stall. Let them own their stall, right? They're the ones that are trying to be in business for themselves. And when we look at certain techs, there are certain techs that will throw up if they had to look at a camera, right? It's not for them. But I think a lot of us said here tonight is that a lot of them actually want to be more forward facing. Two is that we want to make sure they have a tech path. Do they want to become a writer or a manager one day, right? Or a team lead, I guess, would be a first thing. A team lead is going to drive with customers. A foreman is going to drive with customers. A one-day service writer or a service manager will need to talk to customers. We want to make sure they have the pathway. But I think the biggest thing we all said here today is videos for our inspections. We are 100% and we pay for those videos. We want them to turn the camera around and face it instead of talking to the car and they're just the background, because a lot of them got great voices. But boy, when you ask them to turn the camera around, we've had some struggles, right? But the issue is that the ones that embrace it and say, hey, this is my store. This is my Tully Williams working on your car, right? Talking to the customer. Guess what happens? Customer says, like Marco said, I want to talk to that. I want that guy to work on my car again, right? He's the one. Now, we don't explain the repair. We just want them to introduce themselves, talk about some red items that are on the car. And of course, we have pictures and video of all those things for you in that inspection. But building the relationship with the technician, with the customer, bypassing the service advisor. Why? Because customers will say yes to recommendations we'd sell our family members. That's all we want to sell. And having the technician be truthful about it's kind of like your surgeon coming in and saying you need surgery, but do you want the registered nurse to come in and tell you what you need? I want to talk to the doctor, right? You know, the nurse might be explaining things the doctor said afterwards. I call that the service advisor, right? But the technician's the one that has that information. Next is that when we give video updates, we're trying to get service advisors to give video updates to their customers. We have them go out to the shop and say, hey, Tully's working on your car back there. Everything's going well. We should get back to you in about 20 minutes or an hour at the end of the day. Showing the technician working on the car, technician might have a comment or two. Shows the strength, builds the relationship with the customer. Marco's spot on. Remember, it's all about the technician building a relationship. Service writers got great relationships. And then let's reward them. Show them how many hours they're selling by making great videos. The percent of hours sold on recommendations we'd sell our family members. That's the win. They come in and get the car fixed. But when they sell those great recommendations to sell family members, that's because the service advisor and the technician working together with a great video has sold those. Celebrating those hours to me is so important. And then I think we all talked about recognition for service for technicians. 100%. We have the 3,000 hour club. I got 26 of my technicians in the 3,000 hour club. We have a ginormous celebration for our technicians and service writers. right? To celebrate all those great people that do a great job for all of us. Because, we're in the repeat and referral business, and it starts with the technician, the service writer, the porter, the detailer. Everybody brings those people back in, and God bless America.
Genius. I didn't even think of the video angle. You're right. I mean, because that takes, and yeah, it is tough to get someone comfortable being on video, but if it's part of the job, it's part of the job. And now you're not taking them away from the car, right? Now you're not stealing hours from them. So they get to be forward facing while still working on the car. It's genius. And now dealerships got marketing tools. You got actual, footage of them repairing the car, them talking about, speaking knowledgeably about the repair, full transparency. Genius.
You don't want videos to be long. Our goal is that we want those things to be like 30 to 45 seconds for the intro.
Right.
People don't want to see. They want to see the car up in the rack. That's all they want to see. Right. You're not going, well, there's an oil leak over that far corner. They don't want to see those things. They want to look at those are pictures, right? They want to talk about things that need to be done right away, right? You don't say reds and yellows, things that are safety items that need to be replaced today, right? The technician is the one that starts that conversation, not the service writer. The technician does. Through that video, and that's what we're trying to work on. It's hard for them to turn the camera around and talk to the camera versus them just being narrative and talking about the car. That, to me, is the next win for us.
I think so, yeah. Well, look, I'll be honest. So we use video in our screening of candidates. We have not done it with technicians, and I don't know that maybe someday we'll get to that point. I don't know that it adds a whole lot of value, but say a service manager or parts manager, and we even see it with service and parts managers where we got a great candidate. Hey, we need to get you on video. You got to run through these questions. We're trying to get you marketable so we can get you placed. And I'm just not really, can you send me the questions in an email? So it's not just technicians. I think that's just natural for a lot of people. It's not easy to be on camera. So, having them take that leap would be huge. And then, like you said, you're building that bond and that trust. And once they get comfortable with it, next thing you know, you got 100 Marcos running around the country, which I don't know if we want that. That's kind of terrifying, actually.
We want a bunch of 3,000-hour technicians. That's what we want. We want 3,000 hours.
And if I may here real quick, Joe, isn't it funny that you go to the cheapest restaurant in town and they go like, hey, I'm Shawn, I'm your waiter. Okay, cool. So here we are at these dealerships that charge $200-300 dollars an hour plus. How nice would it be if a technician goes walking out and said, good morning, I'm Marco. It's like, I'll be your technician for today. It's like, what problem may I solve for you?
Yeah. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a big, long conversation, but like you said, just that intro, just shaking someone's hand and knowing that it's a human being back there is huge for both sides, for everybody.
And I think what Marco's pointing out is that a lot of times it's hard for them to be in the service drive, but that's where, to me, the video, if we can get them to be forward-facing, is the trick.
Agreed. Thanks, guys. That was beautiful. Like I said, We've talked, we've run through so much stuff. I'm always, what are we talking about, guys? What are we talking about? You get a little panicky. And then, like I said, once we get rolling on here, there's so much. We could go on, we could do an hour about just video and expand on that a little bit. But that was a good one. I appreciate it.
Tom Drzezinski made the comment a little bit earlier that the role of that technician is evolving. And Tom, we agree with that wholeheartedly. Who knows how far it's going to go, but there was a big article just last month about one of the major OEMs with one of their initiatives in the shop is to get the technician more forward facing with the customer. And we're seeing it all around. Tully, when I came out to see you, I know that was the one element that you had not done yet, was turn the camera around. And of course, many people are not going to be comfortable with that. But I think over time, the way you have reinforced that and encouraged that and rewarded that, and focused on that, that is the next move.
The analogy, like you said, Tully, it was genius to say this is your stall, this is your store, right? Make it theirs, make it their business. You're kind of like an independent contractor, right? So that they want to do that and they see the value in doing it.
I think you need to show the results. I mean, we talk about stuff, but you know what? When you say a video first, are you paying me? Yes, I do. Not everybody pays. But the next thing is that if they show the results, I sold 40% of my hours from great recommendations I'd tell my family members. That is a win. If I'm selling 1%, like, why am I doing this, right? Yeah. Show the success right? Put it on the TV sets, put it on the wall. I love pictures. I think it's great to show the wins. Then they say, wow, I want some of that. Well, maybe I'll try the video. And the next thing you know, they get more comfortable with it. Build on it.
Yeah,
Mike Weldon?
technicians love the limelight just as much as everybody else does.
Absolutely, yeah. And they might act like they don't, but like I said, once you get on this, it's like hopping on the panel. Like you said, Shawn and Robert, it's you're nervous, and you get out there and you realize you have important stuff to say and you have value to add, and all of a sudden you're a big shot and you feel a little better about yourself. I think so.
What a great panel, Joe.
Yeah,
Super
absolutely.
Joe.
Always fun.
So, Joe, tell us a little bit more about AutoMax and what you do and how you work with dealerships.
Yeah, so we've been doing this for a while now. We're coming up on 28 years. We're a full service automotive recruiting company. Obviously, large attention on fixed ops. That's where the need is. It's probably 60-70% of our overall recruiting falls on that side. But we do everything. I mean, it's top to bottom, from lot porters up to GMs. I run the day-to-day operations, and we got a full team and divisions for different positions. So, whatever is needed, big or small, we're happy to take it on.
Everybody surround yourself with the best. AutoMax, Joe Lockard, as you can see here, surrounded by the best in the industry as well. The AutoMax TechVengers panel. Joe, thank you for all you do for the industry. If you want to reach out to Joe, you can find them on the web. Also, his email is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. And there's a phone number, a 609 number, Joe. That's is that direct to you, or
that is my cell phone? But I'll tell you, it comes up. If I call you, it's going to come up as Atlantic City, guys. So don't ignore it. You know how many callbacks I get, Ted? They're like, "Hey, I saw the Atlantic City, and I just figured it was a telemarketer, so I didn't answer it." I'm like, "Yeah, don't blame me."
Okay, that could be fun. All right. Marco Zwanenburg, thank you so much. Robert Migliaccio, great information. Shawn Kingrey with us from Kaiser Automotive Group. Tully Williams, what can I say? Michael Weldon, thank you so much for being here with us today. Tom Drzinski, thank you on short notice. Weessner Automotive Group, big part of our events. And Joe Lockard from AutoMax, the AutoMax TechVengers panel here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
At AutoMax Recruiting and Training, we've helped recruit, screen, and place over 180,000 retail automotive professionals in every department. Along with our robust in-person training programs, with AutoMax, you'll be pushing the hire button in no time. AutoMax Recruiting and Training. Any other retail automotive talent search is positively primitive.
My Karma, everything fixed ops in one place. The first truly unified solution for fixed operations. A comprehensive suite of key applications, deeply integrated with software and DMS providers, and open APIs that offer unprecedented opportunities for dealerships to build custom solutions. My Karma, a proven name with over $21 billion in payments processed, 423 million text messages transmitted, and over 9.5 million videos recorded. My Karma users enjoy an average 16% lift in RO dollars. And innovative solutions like our advanced Scheduler Plus and Service Cart Video MPI transform the service experience.
What I really enjoy about it is the connection and the relationship building.
We pretty much use every aspect of My Karma that we can.
We went from a paper multi-point to a digital multi-point. It literally year over year, 350% increase in our net profit.
It is incredible. Online payments, easy. The cream always rises to the top with this, and My Karma has been the best.
At the Fixed Ops Roundtable, we're always innovating. Our revolutionary pop-up events have sparked a new wave of growth and innovation by cultivating community and culture. Become part of the brand that is shaping retail fixed operations at fixedopsroundtablecertified.com.
Let's pause this 90s rewind and fast forward to the future with Steve Greenfield of Automotive Ventures, Sarah Vantine, and Ted Ings.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here with Ted Ings. We have a very amazing panel this afternoon, the future of automotive retail with Steve Greenfield. Steve, welcome to the Roundtable.
Sarah, thanks for having me as always. It's good to see you.
Steve, great to see you as well. And congratulations to you on all the success that you and Automotive Ventures are having.
Thanks, Ted. Thanks. It's always great to be back with you, and I look forward to the conversation today.
Well, I look forward to learning a lot more about what you do. But first, I want to kind of get brought up to speed on where you see the industry and where you see things going. So Sarah, I know, has been working on some questions with you. And with that, Sarah, I'll let you lead off.
Perfect. Thanks, Ted. Well, Steve, I know a lot of dealers have been talking about EVs. We've been seeing a lot of articles in automotive news and across the automotive landscape. And so the first question I'd love to ask you is, the EV market seems to be slowing down. What's your perspective on what's going on?
Yeah, so I think if you roll back the clock, it's a great question, but if you roll back the clock a couple of years, there was really only one automaker, which was Tesla. And they came in and really were addressing very high net worth, high affluent, the high end of the market. And they've done well. They've obviously done well. They've gotten to good, healthy profit margins, et cetera. Well, now we've got, many of the legacy automakers have come into the space. So now we're offering EVs while they're still a premium priced vehicle. We are getting much more volume offered across the spectrum. But, Tesla was very successful with offering early and satisfying some of that early demand with vehicles. And what we're finding now is we've kind of already addressed the early adopters. And it's becoming increasingly hard, despite the fact that we've got these very generous tax incentives to try EVs. We've sort of satisfied the early adopters. And now we've got this middle group of folks who may or may not be willing to buy EVs. And we're effectively tapping out with demand. So last year, we sat just shy of 8% of all passenger vehicles that were EVs. Right now, we're still just shy of 8%. And it seems like despite the tax incentives, we're having a hard time breaking through in an environment where you've got many of the legacy automakers, the GMs, the Fords, et cetera, who are bringing much more EV product to market. And the two just aren't going to reconcile. So we are starting to see a tale of two cities. ICE vehicles supply is increasing, but EV supply on dealers' lots is increasing much more rapidly. And many dealers in many geographies are finding there just isn't the demand for EVs overall. So I think it'll be interesting to see what happens over the remainder of this year. I suspect what we will see is that the automakers to move these vehicles are going to have to come in over the top and provide much more incentive for the consumers to buy and for the dealers to push these vehicles. And then the big uncertainty, Sarah, is really around what happens in November with the federal election. Donald Trump has threatened to effectively dismantle the Inflation Reduction Act, which is the act under which these incentives are being distributed to consumers. And if that happens, I really just wonder, what is natural demand for EVs in America right now without stimulus? We know it's less than 8%. What it is, we won't know until that transpires. But I think to get through this sort of 8% inflection point is going to take more time and more effort, and just more time for consumers to get more comfortable with buying and owning EVs.
A lot to be said on the EV front. Thank you, Steve. Steve, what do you see in terms of fixed operations? What role is that playing for dealerships? Here we are now, middle of May, coming through the first half of the year. What do you see fixed operations?
Well, I'm going to tell you and Sarah just how important fixed ops are, to the average franchise dealers in America. But pre-COVID, we saw clearly that more than half of a dealer's profitability was being delivered through parts and service. During COVID, yes, dealers were printing incredibly high profit margins on the front end and the back end of the vehicle sale itself. But we were seeing strong evidence that that's starting to drift back down now. And as a result, more and more dealers, I'm sure you're hearing it as well as I'm hearing it, are much more interested on, hey, let's making sure that we've got all of our ducks in a row in fixed ops, because it's going to become, and it is becoming, much more important for us to generate revenue and profitability from fixed operations. So I think you're going to see the pendulum is in the process of swinging back from, we could make unlimited profitability just from selling vehicles to much more of a focus on operations overall and fixed operations specifically, to ensure that that revenue stream and that profit stream is being operated with 100% efficiency, and thus driving a lot of profitability for dealers going forward. And I think if nothing else, we're going to just be hearing more and more about fixed ops and how it's the healthiest deliverer of profitability for dealers over the next 18 months.
Steve, I love that you touched on the pieces on the profitability element in dealerships, because I know a lot of dealers are thinking about their margins and thinking about where the gross is going to come from over the next few months. What are you seeing in fixed operations, specifically the innovations that you anticipate will be happening over the next few years in fixed operations?
Well, the beautiful thing is, I think that the best is yet to come. I'm always amazed when you walk around the show floor at NADA or Digital Dealer or any of these conferences, just the proportion of the booths that are dedicated to variable ops versus fixed ops. And it feels distinctively like the fixed operations area has been neglected from an innovation and entrepreneurs focusing on it, except I think in the last little while, where we're seeing more interest, because finally I think entrepreneurs, it's dawning on them that, hey, if half of the dealer's profitability or more is coming from fixed ops, and there isn't nearly as much competition in innovation and the vendors selling into dealers in this area, those two things colliding, the overlap means that there's plenty of opportunity. So I think that we're seeing much more innovation, especially when you're seeing AI being talked about, et cetera, following up with consumers to ensure that the consumer experience is better. We've seen a lot more consumer-centric solutions around using video to help a consumer understand what an upsell might be within fixed ops, and then getting their approval over a mobile device, et cetera. So I think that we're starting to see much more innovation in the space, and I think we're going to see a tremendous amount more of innovation around fixed ops over the next sort of 18 months to 2 years. And finally, we're going to see more innovation perhaps in fixed ops than variable ops, simply because it has to equilibrate.
Well, I know at Automotive Ventures, you have a bird's eye view of what's happening in the space in terms of technologies, new technologies, innovations, and you've got to be seeing a lot of things coming your way, Steve, some that are ready for market, some that are maybe going to be ready soon. What are some of the things that you're keeping your eye on? You mentioned things like video, which are now, maybe at one time they were fringe, but now they're commonplace. So everyone's talking about using video. What do you see, new technologies? And I know in the past we've talked about software-enabled vehicles and connected cars and so on.
Yeah, I think that, like you said, Ted, there are some exciting companies out there in the video space that have demonstrated much better CSI scores, because the consumers feel that the dealers are being much more transparent in real time, and the consumer has much more control over getting information back and then making the decision whether or not they want to opt into additional service. So I think the video space is very interesting, as you said. One of our companies in sort of in the back office of fixed ops is WarCloud, and they've done very, very well helping a dealer effectively automate the warranty claims back to the automaker. And as a result, they make more revenue, they get paid quicker. And there's also an audit trail in case the OEM does ever audit these warranty claims. And another more recent investment that we made, which is an interesting thesis area, is as the cars get more complex and have more radar and LiDAR and cameras, those LiDAR and cameras are going to need to be recalibrated frequently. Things like lane change assist and automated cruise control are only going to work as well as these cameras and sensors are calibrated pretty regularly. And we invested in a company called Kinetic Automation, which is helping dealers automate that process of ADAS calibration, doing it very quickly and seamlessly, and it's a new revenue stream as a result. So I think that the technology in the cars is going to continue to increase at a relentless pace, which is going to cause all kinds of interesting challenges with repairability, the technician skill needed, the tools needed, specialized tools needed, et cetera. So on the flip side of that, in order for dealers to keep up with the technology advances within vehicles, there are going to have to be new companies that emerge, new entrepreneurs that focus on this and really help it make it easy for dealers to keep up with this technology change within the vehicle.
So much exciting things to think about, Steve. That was really amazing to delve into some of the technologies and what we can be anticipating. As Ted mentioned, your company Automotive Ventures has a lot of insight into up and coming companies and up and coming technologies in the industry. But overall, what are you most excited about right now?
Yeah, I think that as I look at a dealership's cost structure, 80% of a dealership's costs are people. And I think that the promise of AI or automation is the fact that phase one will be that existing employees will be much more efficient, right? You look at mobile phone applications and word processing applications and Microsoft Excel. All of us have been able to do a lot more, right? Productivity has increased tremendously since the beginning of the internet, and I think with AI, we're about to see a wave of co-pilots and assistants, and I think the average employee is going to be able to actually just do more work than they were in the past, less effort and more productivity and more throughput. Longer term, I think that this may mean that we actually are able to replace headcount entirely, which I think is going to manifest in like, hey, someone's retiring or someone's moved on. We don't have to backfill that position. And it's a big promise, and I think we're on the cusp of it now. What that means to me is that dealers should effectively be more profitable because they're going to be able to slowly over time do more with fewer people. The existing employees that they have are going to be more productive, which at the end of the day, end of the quarter, end of the year, is going to mean that your cost structure slowly shrinks, which means that dealers should be more profitable than ever before. And, very practically, I think that's one of the most exciting areas that we're looking at is like, how do we leverage AI and automation to ensure that a dealer's profit is actually increasing over time by taking out costs?
Steve, something I've never asked you directly before is to tell us a little bit more about Automotive Ventures, about what you do. We hear things on the periphery, and
Sure.
we know some of the success stories, some of which you've mentioned here on the roundtable and have done very, very well. But tell us what you do for the industry and how you help, bring some of these technologies to life.
Well, thanks, Ted. No, I appreciate that question. I feel very lucky to have stumbled into this industry 25 years ago, and now at this point, be able to work with early stage entrepreneurs to help them get exposure and become successful, and ultimately, grow their companies to the point where they can exit, and also do well, obviously, in that process for our investors. But we've now got three investment funds that we're investing out of. So that's really my day job, is managing those three funds, managing the expectations of our investors, and many of our investors are dealer principals, and many of them that you would know very, very, very well. And then we've got 28 companies that we've invested in. So we spend a lot of time. I think I'm on 6 of their boards, and spend a lot of time talking to those companies every week to make sure that we're giving them everything they need to succeed. So it's great. I think most of my time is spent working with, talking to, and helping entrepreneurs in this space to find innovative new solutions to help dealers. And it's exciting. I wouldn't change anything that we're doing now. It's an exciting place to be. And, America was built on the backs of entrepreneurs like you, Ted. And I think that it's great to be able to identify and help entrepreneurs at a very early stage realize their dreams, and at the same time realize great outcomes.
You mentioned dealers being in that investment space now, and I've read about that in automotive news and so on and so forth. Steve, do you consider that's going to continue to grow? More dealers are going to look at that in coming into opportunities like that as well?
Yeah, I'm fascinated. I'm sure that you and Sarah also hear this. I mean, the number of dealers now that are directly investing into automotive technology companies, and 10 years ago, this wasn't the case. But I find that more and more dealers have an appetite to identify and pull the trigger and sneak into these investment rounds alongside us, which I think is great validation. When you've got a dealer principal that likes a technology solution enough to invest directly, then they will absolutely bring it to their stores, bring it to their buddies, bring it to their 20 groups, and it really, really helps accelerate the adoption of these companies, especially when they're in the early stage. So I am finding that there's much more appetite for dealers to be investing directly into auto tech companies, which I think is just really healthy, and it's a really good dynamic. Dealers have done very well for themselves, especially over the last 4 years. So typically they're sitting on more cash that they want to deploy. And I think it's a great dynamic when a dealer principal has enough faith in a technology entrepreneur to put their own money to work in that company. And we're seeing much more of that happening.
And you mentioned that, it's not only they have a financial partnership, but it's also a strategic partnership when they can deploy that technology. Let's say they have a number of rooftops over all those rooftops, and speaks volumes, I think, to the rest of the community, including the investment community, about the worthiness of that particular service or product.
Listen, I mean, I'll reveal part of our secret sauce here, right, is because we've got 80 dealer principals that represent 1,000 rooftops that are invested across our funds. And
80?
The truth, yeah, that's right. So the truth is, before we ever invest, I have a natural sounding board to run these ideas by, and I know in advance before we ever spend a penny on a company whether or not there's going to be an appetite from dealers. So it's a virtuous circle for sure. But yeah, to your point, I mean, why would you not want the end customer, which is the dealer, to be investing in your company, where not only are they the end customer, but they have so much influence whether or not other dealers will adopt the solution. So it is our secret sauce. And, I think it's the reason why we're going to be successful, is because we effectively have the customer themselves captive as the investor.
And Steve, last question, if I may, just dovetailing what Sarah just said. How is investment business? How is that overall right now? From what you see, here we are in the middle of May 2024.
Yeah, so it's a challenging environment right now for everyone. Interest rates are higher, and therefore anyone who has capital to deploy can be putting it into safer investments that are less risky, that are yielding more. And I think that you also have seen that while the public markets are doing exceedingly well, ironically enough, the IPO market, new companies IPOing in the market just isn't happening at all right now, right? So it's very ironic with the stock market hitting new highs, but companies can't IPO right now. So once the IPO market opens up, I think it's going to mean there's a flood of companies that go public, which is going to drag up a lot of these companies in terms of a valuation standpoint. But the flip side is we're investing very early. We're trying to find companies as early as possible. And for early stage, they call it seed or pre-seed. It's been very insulated from all these dynamics within the public markets. So we're still seeing 50 to 60 companies a month investing in one company every month or month and a half. So we're still seeing really strong deal flow, a lot of innovation going in the space for all the reasons we've discussed today. And we have not seen any diminishment of the actual quality or quantity of companies. At the early stage, I don't think that's necessarily the case at the later stage, but thankfully we're investing early where there hasn't been any impact.
So, Sarah, I want to do something a little different to close here with Steve today. Typically for our audience, if they want to learn more, we have them reach out. But I think in this case, Steve, if our audience are some of these early stage, these companies who have brought products and services and bringing them to market now, or if they are a dealer or dealer group who may be interested in learning more about Automotive Ventures, Steve, what's the best way to get a hold of Steve Greenfield and the team there?
Well, the good thing is you can find me. If you want to Google either Automotive Ventures or Steve Greenfield, I should show up close to the top, hopefully. But you get us at steve@automotiveventures.com. Go to our website, take a look, and we've got all the companies that we've invested on that web page, so you can check that out as well. Or you can find me on LinkedIn but you should not have any problem reaching me. And if you do, just ping Ted and he can track me down.
Sarah, fascinating dynamic here with Steve today.
It was amazing. All of this knowledge, Steve, thank you for sharing it with us today.
Well, it's always a pleasure catching up with both of you. And thank you for having me on again. This has been great.
Everybody, the one and only Steve Greenfield from Automotive Ventures, author of The Future of Automotive Retail, here with us today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
The Fixed Ops Roundtable Certified Program is designed to help preferred dealers and partners with powerful tools, resources, and marketing to achieve even greater success and help grow revenue. We invite you to learn more today at fixedopsroundtablecertified.com.
Let's get in sync for our next speaker. Please welcome John Traver from Traver Connect.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Our theme for this event is the 90s Rewind. It was in the early 1990s that I met the gentleman on screen with us today, John Traver, now the Chief Executive Officer of Traver Connect. John and I met in the early 1990s in Houston, Texas, as part of several initiatives with a great distributor for Toyota motor sales. They were the Gulf States Toyota distributor. And I learned a lot about the industry as a young person coming into the training side of the industry. And I learned about this new phrase called BDC. John Traver, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
My friend, Ted Ing, so good to see you and all that are joining us. Welcome back to Ted. What is this, number 24?
24, yeah.
24 Fixed Ops Roundtables. Congrats on your work as well. As you tell that story, that doesn't seem like that long ago, does it?
No, it doesn't. You and I had a bit more hair back then. In the early 90s,
one of us especially.
Oh, I've seen the pictures, John, and you had a mullet going on back then, as did I.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, we were young. The wild thing for those that are younger than us is you still feel young, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I still envision myself with that mullet.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, if only. Ted, the wild thing about that time was prior to you and I meeting there, I had started this. I was in director of operations and training for Russ Darrow in the 80s. I had sold for the Wild Group in Wisconsin in the 80s. And so I'd started this company, Traver Technologies. it was based around what I saw as something that would update an outdated sales process. That's really what I was trying to do. We stumbled on a 20 group. That 20 group got us into a few stores because they liked the direction of what we were doing, and that was that business development effort. What was really wild though was I think it was 93. I got a phone call from Tony Fujita. I've told you this story before. You remember?
Yes, I know Tony. Yes, yeah.
And he was VP of Merchandising United States for Toyota out of Torrance, now here in Frisco, the Dallas Metroplex. And he said, John, we see you in our top 25 stores, and we're doing a best practices study. We may want to talk to you. And it was kind of an awkward conversation. I've told you this before. And I just kind of stayed in my lane. And I said, okay, hey, that's great. And I didn't strategically end up in the 8 stores. It was basically all referral based. Long story short, he called me back a couple months later, said, John Matt. Do you remember John?
I remember John Matt, yes.
North American VP of Sales. Yep. And he said, hey, we're doing some stuff here around that lines up with what you're doing, and we want to talk to you. So I flew out, met. I ended up going to Traverse City, Michigan to do the Cincinnati region meeting for them.
Yes.
They sent me an RFQ. They said, can you do this for us? And they wanted me to speak to dealers and talk about this business development process. And that was my first real door opening to an OEM, where now I had to tell this story over a period of, 7 or 8 hours, and had a room of 30 or 40 dealers with me as I sort of cast the vision, show them what business development would look like, what a business development center would do for them, and in a simplified way. And Ted, it was great. We started out with 15 cities, and I got about halfway through, and they kept adding cities. That was probably 94. I did 34 cities in 4 months for Toyota, and that work continued for the next 3 or 4 years. And Traver Technologies would grow. We had some software that would track the BDC efforts, the calls, and the scheduled appointments and the shows. We had guides with keywords and phrases that taught salespeople how to have that conversation. And that company grew and grew and grew. And as you know, we got to the late 90s. We had the internet. So guys like John Holt had Cobalt. And John and I would see each other at Toyota and Lexus events. Hey, John, and eventually I'm thinking in the back of my head, we have all the CRM data, all these stores. He's got all this internet data, all those stores. Yeah. You got the DMSs, and I'm going, ecologically, this has got to be one database at some point. ADP bought Traver Technologies in November of 2000. I stayed there 10 years, did a number of things there. But Traver Connect, our current company, began to focus on fixed ops in 2011. And so, as I look back to the grunge decade, Ted, right, of the 90s, 21st century showroom management was the first workshop I did for Toyota. Creating an effective business development system was the second year. I think that was 95. And you can see in my writing room here in the office, a number of different, there's Mercedes, there's Beamer, organizations that we were able to work alongside and develop this process for Honda, pretty much almost all manufacturers, including Saturn, as we went through those years. So, Ted, thanks for being such a great friend during those times. I watched you with your leasing initiative, among other things, your training initiative, and you made a lot of progress for the retail environment.
John, I just want to let the audience know that this is the 90s rewind right here, right now, because the roots of all the things we are doing today, maybe not all, but many of the successful things came from what that era was in the 90s. And you're hearing all about it right now from the man himself, John Traver, who was there. And when you talk about Cincinnati region, Traverse City, and you talk about GST, those were among the best regions for Toyota, because if they were doing something, everybody looked at what they were doing.
You're right. That's a great soundbite. You jump in here as we talk, because, it's interesting to look back in the rearview mirror and learn from your journey. Now, as I think about the 90s and the value of the theme you chose, and for our audience, so if you're in the dealership, you're running a fixed ops department, you're part of fixed ops, you're a vendor partner, and you're contributing to this effort, I think the message is, where did we come from? Where are we? And where are we headed? And is there a way to navigate that journey? Is this just a bunch of fireside storytelling, or, you know, is there actually a message here for those that are watching? And I think the answer is pretty clear. I'm leading the jury a little bit. There is a message here. So let me first say this. If you just look at the car business from a retail sales standpoint, what you're going to see is what looks like an EKG, right? It's a 5-year cycle is what most people will tell you. It's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. For the most part, that is the history of the car business. Ted, would you agree with that in general?
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So what I would say to you, if you're new to this space or you haven't been around it a long time, what you'll find is the actual volume of units sold year over year, there's a lot of focus put on it, but it's basically 13 to 17 million window, depending upon the economy and what's going on. So it's not like an up and to the right chart. It's not something you get on and you just are static and you're going to have more because you're there. Does that make sense? You have fewer dealers. You're going to be fighting for those sales. So that's the first point I would make.
And you remind me, John, that we are in a cyclical business, because looking at that, you know, there are some big ups, okay? And there's been a couple times along the road, you know, where there are big dips in the road as well. So anybody in the industry for a while knows that and is always prepared for that.
No bigger, yeah, great point. No bigger than 2020 dip, right?
Yeah.
The 2009 dip wasn't too far off. So you're right. Those changes do come. Things out of our control. But what do we control? What's interesting is you look at new vehicles, labor and parts service, right? For new car dealers, that light blue line right there, that's the one that's up and to the right. And what I love about that line is it's a steady up and to the right. It's not Mount Everest. It's just this slope that anybody can be a part of. And you see the dark blue line, that's your PPI for new vehicle sales. And you see the downward trend. It's tougher sledding. So, you know, this is over 07 to 19. So it's not really back to the 90s, but you'll find the trend is still identical. This is just the best chart I could find that would help everybody see. So again, what we're looking for in this message today is, what should we hitch our wagon to, right, as we navigate our opportunity? So the big question, I think, today is, how do we get there? How do we navigate? And for me, Peter Drucker was born in 1909. He lived till 2005. I think about that and I just, like, it blows my mind. So you hear me talk about Drucker a lot. And the reason isn't just because of the person and their work, but their time. He didn't get to choose when he was born and when he died, but he did exist during an era of business that saw massive change, including the internet at the tail end. And he had people around him like Jim Collins, who wrote Good to Great, Kouzes, and some of the others that have made incredible contributions to business, people that I love to be able to look into their work and glean ideas from. So they put a book together that was a result of their Learn to Lead organization, and they called it the 5 Most Important Questions for Your Organization. And that's where I want to take our group today. There's really 5 questions we should be asking annually as we navigate our way with fixed ops, with automotive retail, with vendor partner support. And that is, number 1 is going to be, what is the mission? And I want to talk a little bit about what that actually means today in our short TED Talk. The second one is, who is your customer? And that may seem obvious, but I want to unpack something, a kind of a little bit of a element of a different view, a perspective there, Ted, as we get into that. And then, what does that customer value? You know, to me, you have people on this Fixed Ops Roundtable that, if you listen and look, you can see they're answering this question. When Ed Roberts talks about mobile service, he's speaking to what customers value. And it's basically time, right? They value time and convenience. And so we're going to go to them instead of them coming to us. And then you got, how are we doing? That's the old real question, you know, who am I? What am I doing here? The Admiral Stockdale, right? How are we doing? Some organizations, I would say most that are participating in the Fixed Ops Roundtable are folks that are trying to answer that question for real. They're transparent. They're looking at saying, hey, we're not very good at this. We need to get better at this, right? We're subpar. Or, hey, we've made progress, but we can be better. And then, what is our plan? So to me, that natural waterfall right there, Ted, those 5 questions are our friends. I have multiple companies that I've either started or I'm involved with. And none of them are perfect. Ted, none of them are perfect. We screw up every day, but this is our roadmap. This is how we navigate. We have clients today that have left us and come back. So that means we screwed up, but at some point they knew what our makeup was and they knew we'd figure it out, and they've come back. I wish the first didn't happen. I'm thankful the second happened, but we're going to continue to ride these 5 questions, and I would urge the audience to do the same.
Okay.
So in the content today, we talk about what is the mission. We all remember the Think Different t-shirt, the Think Different slogan with Apple, and Think Different was their mission. What I want to say to you real quick is your mission, go back to your mission in your organizations and ask yourself why you do what you do. If it's to provide service and parts solutions, I don't think that's a mission. That's a what. It's not a why. I would also say that your mission should be brief. It should fit on a t-shirt.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it's got 3 parts. You know, as you read the 5 most important questions by Drucker, he'll tell you it's tied to opportunities. So Apple looked at its opportunity technologically, competence. They brought the right people in, and commitment. They were in it for the long haul, and they're still in it today, right? Nokia, when you think of Nokia, do you think of a powerful technology, mobile centric? They've kind of changed. So there's some breakdown in those 3 for somebody like maybe a Nokia. That's an opinion, not a fact. Okay. So at Traver here, we have our own mission. But before I go there, I just want to, if I can, show you how this is not just a check the box question. If you and I were to look at the hospital environment, specifically emergency rooms, Drucker and his team did this back in the 80s. They had a chain of emergency rooms, Ted, on the West Coast. And they basically were hired to go in and help them with their mission and sort of these 5 questions, improving the overall chain and its organization. And they asked them the simple question: what do you do? Why do you do what you do? What's your mission? They said, we provide healthcare. And they, in the story, they say, look, it was painful. It took us all day to get them to why they actually did what they did. Because if you're in an emergency room, would you agree with me? It's probably a little late for healthcare.
It's late. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tick late, right? They remedy illness. They remedy injury, right? You got a broken bone or a laceration, or you got a fever. Something's going on that needs immediate help. And so they were able to lead them to a new view. And their actual mission, Ted, was to give assurance. You know, and so as a result of this workshop, they changed the way they operated. Their action plan changed to where now, instead of signing in at the front counter, as soon as somebody came into the waiting room, they said, we'll have somebody with you in just a moment. And within 1 minute, their objective was to have a qualified person come out and greet you, sit with you for just a minute. We're not going to treat you, but we're going to greet you, and we're going to assess, and we're going to provide you assurance, and then we're going to start our process, whatever that is. Of course, knowing there's prioritization and things like this going on in an emergency room all day.
Yes.
Ted, why do I bring this up? Because when somebody rolls up in the service drive, what we think is they're there to have a wrench turned. But in reality, here's the question I have. Number 1, do they want to be there? Number 2, is there some apprehension emotionally, psychologically, financially? And do we know that in the lane? Are we telling our people how to greet them? Or are we telling our people what they're dealing with as they roll up? The human spirit has the ability to make that adjustment once they know what they're dealing with. They're people. And that's what happened here. This organization that I'm referring to, this hospital chain, completely was transformed. Now, a decade later, they were sold, and there are probably 100 different hospital systems today. But this one small act of why we do what we do in service can change everything. And that's why I wanted to take a few minutes on mission today. Ask your organization as you dig into this, what is your current mission? What are your current challenges and opportunities, right? And does it need to be revisited? I think once you get to this, you know, you have this balancing act, right? And that's what I would warn you is, yes, there's change, but you also have to have cash flow, continuity. You got to make your numbers. But so that's why I say this is kind of an ongoing thing. So what is your mission? was that first question. And I just think it's pretty exciting. At Traver Connect, we got experience matters is our mission. Yeah.
I like that. Like it.
Yeah, it's simple. There's yours and ours. And I'll just say this, our why is it does matters. Everything we do, whether we're writing software, we're taking calls, we're doing training, our end is that experience, if we can assist the dealers in delivering experience for the customer, it's going to make a difference. Our dealers want a positive experience. That's the yours. Theirs is the consumer. Yours is our dealers, and ours is our team, Ted. So I lay that up there not to boast, because we battle to achieve this every day, but to show you that this is what the journey looks like when you land on it. What's really cool about mission is every once in a while, you'll run into somebody along the way. Does that face look familiar to you, buddy?
And with the t-shirt too. Yeah.
That's Wolfgang Puck. And that was this year at our client appreciation dinner, Every Good Endeavor. Joe Link, our national director for business development.
Oh, Joe Link with him. Yes. Yes. I know Joe. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Joe
He's on your
saw
team.
Wolfgang.
Yeah.
Yep. He saw Wolfgang and said, hey, you need to be part of what we're doing. And Wolfgang grabbed the t-shirt and held it up. And hey, you never know who's going to join you in your journey when you get that mission clear. Now, listen, I want to just hammer this home. There's two types of customers, right? You got primary and you got supporting. I can't go as deep as I want to today, but I just want to say your primary customer, that's the person whose life you're affecting, you're changing, et cetera. For us, it's the consumer, right? I would say on the flip side, the supporting customer that's going to be your vendor partners, people like a Traver Connect, right? Your OEM staff, your referral partners, your associates, your employees. These are all people that can say no. At some point, they can play a role and say no. You got two types of customers. To me, as you're asking the questions, what they value, we want to focus on the primary customer. Let me show you what that looks like here real quick. What they value should always be asked. And I think, again, as you look at some of the things that are being done in our space today, things, Ted, that the Fixed Ops Roundtable highlights, and you take and put a light on it, is really a result of this question being asked, Ted. I mean, it really is. So as we dig into that, what are the kind of questions that led those people to where they are? They're asking, hey, were you happy with the service? What was meaningful to you? What can we do better? What should we stop doing, right? Those are all the things that we do that give us insight on what to do next. We don't do it in the back room. We do it on the front line as we ask our customers, knowing what the customer values. The other thing I want to hammer home is the illusion, Ted, in fixed ops is everything operates around the repair order. But that's just an illusion. That's like the scoreboard. The game is on the field. And the field, Ted, is in these areas right here. I would say, would you agree that what happens in that area right there is going to make a difference for that experience?
The service advisor, the write-up, it's the people. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
That exchange is going to be key, even if it happens over the phone or digital. Sometimes we're going to have to think outside the box, Ted. Sometimes we're going to have to go to them.
Yes,
there's your Ed
sometimes.
Roberts
Yes.
model, right?
Yes.
Jim Sambino now too, right? Just some folks getting on that train. And then pickup and delivery. Look, I'm ready. We've started with our Retention Moves initiative here. We had one in Louisville here this past month. Half of the customers wanted to schedule service. These are people that weren't going to be coming back in, orphaned. They didn't want pickup and deliver. The other half wanted it, had a couple really sweet stories. So what I'm telling you is the problem for most consumers, they're going to tell you, is my time is limited. I don't have time to get there. So to me, these are all examples of what a mission on purpose designed around what the customer values looks like. This is how it will allow you to evolve and not get caught up in a trend, but actually be driving your own. And then the last two questions, Ted, how are we doing at this? You know, Stockdale, when he ran with Ross Perot, I thought, oh boy, this guy's something else. But he was in the Hanoi Hilton, if you remember. He was a prisoner of war with John McCain. I mean, they beat him. He was the highest ranking officer held in captivity in that war. What I loved about Stockdale, when he asked that question, he said, who am I? What am I doing here? When he went on camera, you remember that? Okay, I always think of that. It was crazy. It was crazy. I mean, it was raw. Well, I would say we need to be a little bit like Admiral Stockdale, Ted. We need to ask, how are we doing? Just tell me. And we need to be wise enough to be still and listen so that we can understand the times that we're in. And then the last thing I would say is, once you have those 4 answered, Ted, what is our plan? You would probably agree with me. It becomes pretty stinking easy.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have choices. You're going to have the Fixed Ops Roundtable you can refer to. You can begin to pick what's next, and you can get after it. And I know you know this, Ted. I know you know this because I looked at the newsletter you just sent out. Carl Sewell, right? There he is. I remember Russ Darrow. I was still at Russ's place in the 80s, and he comes back with Carl's book the first time it came out in 1988. Mm-hmm. And I read the book, and, you know, being the training guy over the organization, it was like, hey, live, eat, and breathe this, make this happen. Well, yeah, it's going to take more than just me. But everything I read made sense, lined up with what I believed the industry really could and should be. And we're fortunate to have a guy like Tully who also gets it. And what does Tully always say? Besides ours, what does he say? What
Repeat
business?
Referral business.
Yeah. So the message hasn't changed, but how we get there, Ted, I think that is what's changed. It is this constant, never-ending improvement process that we're all part of, something I became very familiar with from Toyota back in the 90s.
John, powerful stuff. And to include Carl Sewell in there, very much in play. John Traver is the CEO at Traver Connect. You see the phone number on the screen. You can reach out to Traver Connect with any questions. John, I got to admire you because you've thought outside the box very much as well. Let me bring you on side here alongside me on the screen. You've expanded now with this retention moves and now are helping dealers who want to be able to go to the customer to do things such as service, pickup, and delivery. You offer a very unique value for those dealers and for those customers as well who want to think different.
We're in it, Ted. We're still learning. There are changes we're going to probably make, and I'll be candid with our audience. Here we are 5 months into the year. By the way, happy Mother's Day to all of you out there, those that have shared in that special day. Ted, as where we're at today is we've played the role of concierge, and we see a concierge position evolving in the store to be able to deliver this cheaper, better, faster, etc. But the consumers want it. So all we're doing is responding to what we're learning. The ability to get people on the phone, to schedule, to provide software that tracks the experience with the vehicle, checking it in, checking it out. We've assembled all that. So now it's partnering with the store to make this as seamless and as one-to-one Peppers and Rogers, back from the 90s as well, if you remember Peppers and Rogers, as we can. So thanks for bringing that up. We'll keep everybody apprised of that effort. It's just one more example of us truly believing in the fact that experience matters, and that's why we ventured into that part of the space.
And if you and your organization have any questions on the phones, on your business development center, if you have one, if you don't have one yet, want to reach out with questions, John Traver and his team are the experts in that field. You could see the URL on the screen, traverconnect.com. John Traver's email is scrolling on the screen as well. You can reach out to John, great friend of the organization. As you've just heard, he and I have known each other for the better part of 30 plus years, and nobody I'd recommend more to help you with your phone needs at the dealership than John Traver and his team at Traver Connect. They are the best in the business. John, on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable, thank you for everything you do for the industry.
Thank you as well, Ted. We appreciate your leadership.
John Traver from Traver Connect with us here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Hi, John Traver here at Traver Connect. Thanks for joining us on our Service BDC video today. If you've already partnered with us, we appreciate your partnership over these past years. If you're new to us, we look forward to getting to hear your story and come alongside you relative to service BDCs. When you hear the term service BDC, the first word for me that comes to mind is calls. That's what really a service BDC is going to be built around, both inbound and outbound calls. Those calls are going to load your shop, it's going to drive your RO count, and ultimately, it's going to tee up your next retail unit. One reason the service BDC is so successful today, so important today, is it has a massive amount of opportunity in the form of those incoming calls. The cell phone changed everything. It's increased the amount of calls to dealerships, and as a result, we have to have a team of people centralized to take those calls. It's always been busy in service, but today, when you ask dealers, they tell you they need help.
With only 3 service riders, it's virtually impossible for my service riders to load the shop effectively and efficiently in order to keep my shop full.
The second thing I'd be thinking about if I were you is, what do my calls sound like? What is our statement of work in those calls? Are we asking for email, address, phone number? Do we use a time and mileage approach to make sure we're pre-selling to any additional needs, or are we just order taking and then trying to take care of the customer when they get there and tell them we need their car all day? So what you want to do is establish a clear roadmap for how your calls are going to be handled. We'll help you do that, whether it's virtually here through our BDC or we do it with your team at your dealership. So perhaps you're like some dealers, when they hear us talk about centralizing the calls here in Dallas, Texas, they wonder what that call might sound like.
One thing I like about Traver is that my customers feel as though they're dealing with someone within my own store. I've had several customers come to my store and ask to speak to Chelsea when my people that realize Chelsea doesn't work there, she actually works in the call center in Dallas.
I have you scheduled for the recall. Was there anything else?
Let me tell you, you're like the most professional person I've ever spoken to, I think.
My pleasure.
Good job.
Thank you.
No, I'm serious. I'm being completely serious. No, we don't need anything else. That was great.
You have a wonderful day.
Okay, you're doing a great job. You sound good on the phone. So
Oh,
when I see Herb, I'll tell him he's a great person on the phone.
We're built for service BDCs, 60,000 square feet of workstations and personnel trained to take inbound calls. There's a handful of ways we can help you. We can help you with a virtual service BDC where we take your calls. We can help you with outbound campaigns, filling in those open spots in your schedule, turnkey, not just getting the customer to call, but actually taking the call and loading it in your scheduler. 3, training for your business development manager, for your business development rep. How do they take these calls? We'll bring them into our customer experience center if they're a BDM, or we'll provide online training for those BDRs. Leadership education for you. You're wondering, what are my KPIs? What should my staffing plan be? We can walk you through this in less than a day. And then tools, everything from texting, mobile payments, even in-dealership software to help your BDRs. So hopefully you see we're built for service BDCs. This is what we do, not what we talk about, and we hope to be talking to you soon.
Hey, Danny, were you able to find that repair order for me?
Yes, here it is.
Oh, thanks. Oh, wait a minute. This is the wrong repair order number. I said 825833.
Yes?
Hi, Danny. I need you to help me find this repair order number.
Yeah, sure.
825833. 825833. You got that?
Yeah.
Okay. Please help me find that right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
2 hours later.
Hey, Danny, were you able to find that repair order for me?
Yes, here it is.
Oh, thanks. Oh, wait a minute. This is the wrong repair order number. I said 825833.
No, you told me 852833.
No. It was 825833. I think you got the numbers confused. Can you go please look for it again? Thanks.
Oh.
Our revolutionary pop-up events have sparked a new wave of growth and innovation.
Become part of the brand that is shaping retail fixed operations at FixedOpsRoundtableCertified.com.
This panel's got a full house of industry experts preparing us for change. Up next is the Leading Change panel.
Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here with the Leading Change panel. We have a great group assembled with us today. First off, Steve Greenfield of Automotive Ventures, Brian Kramer, Cars.com and AccuTrade, Tully Williams, the Niello Company, Fred Fordin of Fordin Automotive, Stephen Woessner of Blue Oceans Global, and welcome everyone to the panel today.
Love to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Well, we've got a lot to unpack on this topic today. So first, I think I'll kick it to Tully with this first question. But we're talking a lot about changes across the industry and across the dealership. What role do you think fixed operations will play for dealers in the next 3 to 5 years?
To ensure that they survive. And what I mean that is that it's all about retention. That's the business that we're truly in, repeat referral business. And if your fixed ops doesn't believe in retention number, you can't sell cars and make a living on long term. Short term, sure, but long term, no. So it's our job as a fixed ops department is to ensure the customer never leaves the dealership, so they buy the next car and tell their friends and families to come back. So fixed ops needs to be structured to be a winner, to support from the store, to realize that how important they are to retain those customers and grow their brand.
Steve Greenfield, so you see a lot across the industry with technologies. What is your perspective on fixed operations next 3 to 5 years for dealers?
Yeah, I mean, I'll echo what Tully just said. I think that the owners that I talk to worry that in a lot of ways, the margins they're permitted to make on new car sales is really at the whim of the manufacturer. And if the manufacturer either overproduces a car, creates cars where there's no consumer demand, or starts to squeeze the difference between invoice and MSRP, then the dealer's stuck in the middle. And the one thing they do have control over is like how they treat the customer within fixed operations. And there's this parable in the industry which I think is very wise and very appropriate given the next 3 to 5 years. You sell the first car in variable ops, you sell the next 10 cars in fixed ops. And I think with the intentionality around what that customer experience is, treating them right, to what just Tully said, I mean, they're going to tell their friends, their family's going to buy cars from you, they're going to be repeat ups, etc. And I think fixed operations is going to be increasingly important in a world where you have less control over how much profitability you can drive from variable ops.
Fred Fordin, I want to ask you that question too, and get your perspective. What with fixed operations, what do you see in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, it's interesting, Sarah. Tully nailed it on the head, and it's not a new conversation, right? We've been training our fixed ops departments to do this for decades. Unfortunately, and I see it too often, we have leaders who are not in fixed ops who are not customer centric. They're all about the mechanics of getting cars in, getting cars out at whatever it takes to do that, right? Because, come the 30th of the month, I go from hero to zero. And so somewhere along the line, we've got to get past that hump of this is a 30-day window and look at it as it's a multi-year window, the way Tully just described, right? And the mentality that would go with that, look at all the products that we've come up with in the last 20 years to help customer retention. And then you only have 50% of the industry penetrated with those products. It's a very, very slow learning curve. And we've been having the same conversation for years. And, little by slowly, guys like the people on this screen are getting to make a difference with either their employees or their clients.
Brian, I want to shift gears for a second and ask you this question. First, a lot of dealerships are considering purchasing stores or looking at, downsizing. There's a lot of purchasing events happening in the industry. What's your perspective on how does the business model for a large group differ from an individual store or a small group of stores?
Great question. So when a large dealer group goes in, they've got a playbook. They go, in most cases, this is the CRM we're going to use. This is the service software that we're going to use. There's the service appointment scheduler, the DMS that we're going to use, and so on. and everything is standardized. That allows the managers in the dealership, allows the dealership personnel to move a lot more quickly, move a lot more, be a lot more adaptive. But there's also a cadence of accountability that comes with expectations across the platform. This is what best in class looks like. This is what we do at this store. This is what we do at that store. So I think they're able to upskill much more quickly. And the thing that I noticed, especially when I was at AutoNation, but in almost every brand, is the commitment to used cars and fixed operations, because those are the two, like Steve said, you can control in any market and you can control the controllables. I remember fondly when I was at AutoNation, whenever somebody asked Mike Jackson, "Are you ever going to be happy?" And he would ask Alan McLaren, was that day, he said, "Hey, what's our service absorption for the company right now?" 92.3. He was, "I'm 92.3% happy." And he said he could only be as happy as his service absorption percentage, because that's the only peace of mind that he had, that if something catastrophic were to happen, that they were going to be fine. So I think that's a huge advantage for groups.
Steve Woessner, I want to ask you this question too. So from your perspective, how does the business model for a large group of stores differ from an individual or smaller group?
Well, I mean, I think it's interesting as you see these groups get bigger and bigger and bigger, they have scale. They have the ability to take a concept or take a technology and really scale it significantly. So when they're able to sit there and do that, it makes it very interesting for the rest of the industry to try and keep up. But I think, as Tully said at the beginning, the idea of survivability, especially in the next 3 to 5 years, you have to have that service absorption. You're going to have that, because there's so many changes going on with the OEMs, the ups and downs and the things they're going through. I know Ford goes through it all the time, and you have to have a controllable that you have at your ability to adjust. And I think that's what fixed ops has become. It really has.
Tully, I'd like to get your perspective in your role at the Niello company. So how do you feel the business model for a large group differs from an individual store or smaller group?
Well, I think everybody said it well, but here's what a large group can do. We already know the process we must do. A new group a small group is still trying to figure it out, or they have blinders on and they think their way is the only way. And it takes them a year or two to figure out, well, that probably wasn't a good idea. But when we come in, if we buy a store, we put the exact process at our 10 stores into the new store, because we know it works. We know our fundamentals at the Niello company. It's all about making sure people are happy and make sure we treat our employees best, right? It starts with employee satisfaction, and then it starts with retention. So I think that we have the advantage of a small company to go to a store and we say, I don't care what you did before, this is how we do it, and we have a team of efforts. Also, in a large company, you have people like myself, our variable director, that go to the store to help out. We have an F&I person that goes to the store to help out. We have a controller that can help the business office if necessary, right? We have the resources that we can afford, because we have so many stores, to help stores be successful. As I go to a store and say, I'm here to help you make more money for you and your family. That's my job, is to make people happy and make you happy.
I want to pivot for a second and talk a little bit more about the innovations that we're seeing, because there's been a lot of changes in fixed operations. And Steve Greenfield, I think I'll field this question to you first. What new innovations are you expecting to see in fixed operations?
Yeah, so I put them in two different buckets, Sarah. One we've already talked a little bit about today is the fact that, more innovation around consumer centricity, right? Making sure the consumer expectations are set, that our communication is open and frequent. We've seen a lot of progress in the last couple of years with a couple of vendors in the space around video, and allowing like real-time videos to be shared back with the consumer. And then that's complemented with the consumer's control over the approval process on a phone, right, with a web app or a mobile app. And I think that we're going to continue to see advancements in being very intentional with what the consumer experience needs to be within fixed ops. On the other side, and it's the polar opposite side, I think we're going to find an area of passion of mine, which is just productivity enhancements for the employees. More data, more opportunities for augmentation and AI to help employees do more and have more throughput. A service writer should be able to write more work, and a technician should be under the car working on the car for more hours. And the parts department should be selling more parts, be it either retail or wholesale. So I think that we will see a new wave of innovators that are using, in many cases, artificial intelligence, but simple AI to help augment and create more productivity opportunities for existing employees.
Fred, what is your perspective? What new innovations are you expecting to see in fixed operations?
So Greenfield opened a good door. It's not just that we're going to see some AI technology be able to help dealers. It kind of links back into what to the same thing Tully was just saying. Not only can the big groups afford to have a Tully Williams go in and help that store, but they can afford to buy out the DMS contracts of the store they just acquired, so they can get everybody lined up at once. Well, what we're going to see with AI is we're going to be able to begin to see the smaller groups and the mom and pops be able to begin to afford some technology that AI will make less expensive. And when you plan that out and you look at it, it's going to give some advantages, not over the bigger groups, but some advantages to those smaller groups, that they're going to be able to move more into the more progressive ways of doing business with customers.
Steve Woessner, your take, what new innovations are you expecting to see in fixed ops?
Well, I think when you start to take a look at this, and they talk about AI, everybody likes to use that, but the reality is at a dealership level, you're using IA. So you're using intelligent automation, and you're connecting a lot of automations that have existed for a while, but now are really, really good and really inexpensive. And if you can connect those, you create this sort of automated helper for the person, and they can do the stuff that's repetitive easily for them now, and it can be very inexpensive. And I think you're going to see more of that in a lot of these smaller groups, because they don't have the unlimited budgets, and they need to play within their space. And also, AI is for big companies with a lot of data. Okay, a lot of these smaller guys don't have that kind of need, and so it makes more sense for them to do intelligent automation.
Brian, I want to shift gears for a second and talk a little bit more about the technology in the vehicles themselves. So with your perspective and what you're seeing across the industry, I know this has been a topic in a lot of conversations, but how will connected software-enabled vehicles change the retail automotive business model?
Well, that's a good question. So it's a matter of how much of it can get unlocked, right? So if you talk about, let's say, current state versus future state, we really had connected car technology since, most 2018 and newer vehicles. So we can even go back and retrofit these processes into that. But I look at it like this, and we're working with a lot of OEMs on this as we speak. When somebody pulls up and they go through a Hunter alignment rack or a UVI scan or whoever, they're measuring the tires, grabbing all that data to be able to start building an appraisal, piece by piece. And how do we do that? Well, there's cameras that are already located in every service department. It's looking at a license plate. Our technology in the millisecond will ping that, bring it back, and then we can provide a guaranteed value in literally a millisecond. But the question is, what do you do with that data? How do you make it actionable? And then how do you integrate it into a dealership's process? And how do you integrate it into their workflow? And that's really, Steve Woessner and I talked about this ad nauseum. That's where the magic happens, is not just having that data, making it actionable. And the bigger impact on that data, in my opinion, with what we do, is service marketing. And I think that's when you talk about groups, you talk about different things. I see what CarMax is doing with Edmunds and what they're doing with that data, or what CarMax already has large language models in place, ChatGPT 5, and they've been doing this for years. So how efficient are their models, and how much more efficient is their ad spend? And I think that's something that only the biggest auto groups are looking at, is how to really dominate spend. And then are you also looking at AI-based advertising? Because just because you have SEO, SEM today with Google and Facebook and whoever, YouTube, how do you drop that experience when you're trying to schedule a service appointment? How do you, through AI-based search, through Grok, ChatGPT, Google Gemini, how do you drop them right into that experience? If they want to praise a car, how do they do that? If they want to order tires, there should be a direct site link just for that experience. Direct site links are the future of marketing, powered by AI. Here's my I'd like to know Steve Greenfield's take on this, but I believe that every dealership over the next 2 to 3 years is going to have an AI champion. And I think that champion might look different depending on the size of the group and the scale, but it would either be somebody who's managing CRM templates, CRM responses, because you can do a lot of damage with service follow-up. Everybody go, oh, I can just have AI take it. Everybody's got an AI bot or they're injecting it into their CRM. If you're not training that, then it's like a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Somebody has to be coaching the AI nonstop in a very meaningful, intentional way. Same thing with the marketing. That somebody's got to be doing that, because if not, it can. If you're not training it, it'll just give you bad answers to the wrong questions.
Tully, I would love to ask that question to you as well. So, with the Niello company, y'all have a lot of vehicles coming into the service departments. You have a lot of really connected vehicles today in the California market. How will connected software-enabled vehicles change the retail automotive business model from your perspective?
I think it's going to make things easier, honestly. I mean, when you think about what happens when a car comes in the driveway, it comes in the driveway. It stops. We have a bunch of porters run around the car and make everybody happy. The rider comes out with a tablet and takes a bunch of pictures. It drives over the tire machine. All these things that you talked about when the car comes in should be completely automated, as they should be in any other industry except for the automotive, because all the vendors, lock everything out so no one can talk to each other. But think about all this process to make the life easier. The car comes in, the cameras look for damage. We drive over the machine. We see if it needs an alignment, if it needs tires. It comes in here. We already know what the person is. The person is assigned to it. It should pop up on their screen. The RO should be written before the customer even opens the door. This is technology.
And the parts ordered.
Correct. This is technology that should have happened like 10 years ago that we can't even get anybody to talk about. Well, we don't have the budget for that, Tully Williams. I'm sorry. I mean, these are, to me, simple things that would make our life easier. So then, to the point of, then we can assess the writers. Can they write now maybe 8 to 12, maybe 12 to 15 ROs? Because AI now is writing the RO, bringing the information in. These are tedious jobs that we don't need a human to do. The human is there to make the customer feel happy, to make them feel like we believe and trust them and they trust us, and then give them advice from a human. That's what we want humans for. But the behind the scenes, like Kramer said, why would we need to order the parts by a human when the computer can do it for us and come back and say, that part is on international back order, and I'm sorry that I have to give you a rental car for 5 months, right? I'd rather tell that when they drop the car off than tell them like 2 days later when we're trying to find the part. These are technologies to me that should be doable today. And nobody has really thought about that side. And I don't see it happening. I don't see anybody even thinking about this, because it is, I think, a big scope, but I don't think it's that hard. And you know what? A dealer can't do that. We can do a lot of things, but we can't do that. I beg and plead for that process.
Steve Greenfield, as we're considering and talking about software and technology, what other technologies should dealers be keeping an eye on?
Well, I love where Brian and Tully have taken us, because it's a great vision. Tully, maybe there's a future for you in product innovation at an automaker or two, right? Or maybe with the DMSs to bridge the gap there. But I do like this. I mean, I think the double edge of this sword is the fact that, if my car can diagnose what work needs to be done and can recommend how I get into a shop before something catastrophic happens, we also run the risk that the part may be in stock at a dealership that isn't my home dealership that sold me the car. So the car may recommend, hey, here are the dealers within a 10-mile radius that have the part in stock and have capacity this afternoon to get the work done. So I think it's very interesting. Your dealers are going to have to be able to influence that communication between the car and the consumer. I think it is potentially disruptive, right? That the dealer may lose some of that control over the communication and the ownership of the lifetime value with the consumer. If the OEM takes more of the control, the net, the consumer could be having a better experience, but it'll be interesting to see how this tension plays out over time.
Steve Woessner, what are your thoughts? What other technologies should dealers be keeping an eye on?
Yeah, no, I think they covered it really well, but I agree with them that the time that the human spends talking to the human and the machine spends doing all of the background stuff, that's how it should be. And we have those technologies today. The key is to get somebody, and Brian and I talked about this, allow them to connect together. Let the legacy systems connect together. Open up some of these channels, because the reality is you have the technology to do this already. It's just there's so many proprietary contracts that keep these systems from talking to each other that make it extremely difficult for a dealer. And I think in the short run, and in particular in the long run, if the vendors don't do something, then the OEMs are going to have to step in and do something, because ultimately the customer experience is what's impacted. I mean, Tully's point is very good. Why not tell them when they're there? Why do I have to wait 2 days to find out you don't have the part? I mean, yeah, I got to tell you, as a customer, that would make me much more upset than you telling me when I arrive. And the technology's there. They just need to open it up.
Fred, this has been a really great discussion so far about some of the pieces that are leading change. What are your thoughts about software-enabled vehicles and other technology dealers should be keeping an eye on?
So this question has raised great answers from everyone. Tully's absolutely right. That's what everybody should be thinking of. Where he was wrong is that nobody's thinking about it. So, but here's the difference. You've got development people who have made a dent in our industry who are thinking about these things. But you got to look at the reality of what is available to you and what the dealers do with it, right? So, you know, which DMS company won't let you get to them at all? Which DMS company gives you some data, not all of it? Which DMS company will give you all the data, but they've only got 200 dealers on their system? You know, it's a very, very confounding problem. What we've got to do is we've got to get to the point where one company is willing to go from A to Z. Now, Techion has said they're that company, right? But they're not there yet. They've got a very, very long way to go. The other piece of this is, guys, we got to look at the dealer counts, right? So I don't think anybody on this call will argue that we shouldn't have stores not doing inspections on software, whether it's video, whether it's X time inspect, doesn't matter. Everybody agrees we need to do that. But you've only got 60% of the industry penetrated with that software. The other 40% still hasn't come up to use the technology that we built 20 plus years ago. And so what the software manufacturers look at is, what's my actual target area market? What's my TAM? What's my capability to penetrate? And when you realize that dealers are still shaking their head no at proven technology 20 years later, because they don't want to spend, they can't afford, they don't believe it's going to make the difference. Software manufacturers got to look at that and say, wait a minute, am I actually going to get to the promised land in 3 years or in 5 years when my market shrinks from the whole? So what software should they be looking for? The ones that are going to eliminate human steps and enable humans to do exactly what Tully and Woessner described, and then let the processes run in the background automatically. This is what AI is going to bring us, is saving time here and saving time there, because we can eliminate steps.
Well, we're here this afternoon with the Leading Change panel. I have one final question for each of you. And so for this question, the 30-second answer, real quick lightning round, but want to go around to every single one of you. So I'll start with Steve Greenfield. You know, what are you most excited about right now?
Well, I think I'm most excited that the dealer model is defensible and dealers aren't going anywhere. So that's great for the audience today. I also think there's all kinds of opportunities, all of which has been articulated here. We can dream about a better future, but now it's going to be up to all of us in the industry to make it happen. And, we'll see a lot of leaps and bounds with technology, but we've all got to start working better together.
Tully, what are you most excited about?
I'm excited about the car business. I think it's great that fixed ops is in the forefront. Thank you, Mr. Teddings. I think that when we look at what technology comes out today, I'm excited about cars. I'm excited about cars tomorrow. I'm excited about cars 10 years from now. The human will always be involved, and that's what I want to make sure humans are always involved. I just want technology to help my human be more successful and make all my people happy, make them more money for them and their families. That is the fun part of the automobile business.
Stephen Woessner?
Yeah, I mean, they said it very well. I think breaking down some of these walls that are preventing the things from happening. The other side of it, though, is one of the biggest frustrations you see with technology companies is that every dealer, they say every dealer is different. And what they like to do is they like to create a model and then apply it across a large group. And I think that's one of the challenges they really run into. But I'm excited about the fact that when you go and talk to dealers now, they are starting to look more closely at the processes. They are starting to ask the questions they should be asking, which isn't what tech do we have? It's what are the steps in our process? Are they consistent? And does everybody here apply them? And once you get that level set, then it makes it a lot easier for a tech company to come in and help you where you're not all over the board with a lot of these processes. And so I'm excited about the fact that dealerships are really listening now when they might not have been 20 years ago. So I think it's going to be a fun time.
Fred, your thoughts? What are you most excited about?
I'm excited as BMW has gotten hydrogen to production. And we're going to start seeing BMWs that are hydrogen cars next year. Now the battle begins, right? What wins? Is it going to be batteries or is it going to be hydrogen? I'm really excited.
It's going to be hydrogen.
I agree, 100%.
Well,
Brian?
easy infrastructure.
Yep.
Brian, your
Just comes
closing
down-
thoughts. What are you most excited about?
Well, I wasn't really thinking about it, but I drove a Toyota Mirai, and that's something to be very excited about. But what I'm most excited about is just all this emerging technology. I mean, Elon Musk and Tesla have really disrupted the industry, and you can say whatever you want to say about it, but it's pushed everybody out of their comfort zones. The dealers are getting better. As I travel across country, they're more innovative, they're more responsive. Although there's a lot, some laggards that can be frustrating or just waiting and it's not painful enough to change. There's still a lot that are acquiring stores that are going on offense, that are making this business a lot more exciting, that are doing all these things in new and innovative ways. And I think it's the most exciting time to be in automotive in the history of the world of automotive retail. In the last 125 years, you look back in history, I don't think there's a time that's been more exciting than right now. I'm just glad to get to see it.
Well, everyone, on behalf of Ted Ings and the Leading Change panel, thank you all for sharing your perspectives with us today. This has been really exciting. And just final thank yous to Steve Greenfield, Automotive Ventures, Tully Williams of the Niello Company, Stephen Woessner of Blue Oceans Global, Fred Fordin, Fordin Automotive, and Brian Kramer, Cars.com and AccuTrade. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sarah.
Good seeing y'all.
Good job.
That was great discussion.
Yeah, it was.
Stay tuned, everyone. We have more exciting segments coming up next on the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
So being a legacy automotive retailer, we've used a number of different companies over the years to help us train our people and educate our people on everything from sales process to customer service to you name it, anything relating to retail automotive. But in today's world, particularly since COVID, we really set out to try to find a partner that had a much more progressive, contemporary approach to automotive sales, automotive service, customer relations in general. And when we did that, our research led us to the folks at Quantum 5.
Anything that you can do consistently the same way gets better. So what Quantum gives us the ability to do, or has taught us how to do, is follow a very specific framework that delivers a very specific result every time. And that has been invaluable both to our veterans that have been in the business longer than me and the people that we're hiring new. Quantum came into the store as a partner. They've executed on that on every call, every interaction. And what our veteran staff finds to be the most beneficial is they get to continue to learn.
We know that Quantum is more than a vendor, they're a partner. They're actually a part of our business, a core part of our business and our daily processes. When I got into the car business many, many years ago, it was about control this, control the customer, control this. Well, now customers have as much information as dealers, so now it's more about controlling the process, understanding the customer. And that's what Quantum brings to the table. It allows you to have control of a process, understand your customer and your customer's needs, and deliver the relevant information that they need to make that informed decision, ultimately in purchasing a car, but starting with gaining that critical appointment. Quantum puts our client advisors on a pathway to prosperity. Our newer advisors see our seasoned advisors and the success they're having, and the fact that they're bought into the system and they've been on this system for years shows the new client advisors that if you buy in similarly, you're going to yield the same results, if not better. I can't speak enough to what Quantum has meant to our business and to the growth and development of our client advisors.